Explosions began to occur throughout the city. One day the gate opened, and out came the wicked. Helpless people needed heroes. Indeed, facing such monsters was not easy at all, and they appeared, miraculous gifts. They called them the awakened ones. They heroically fought all the monsters in their path. At this moment, a bright beam of light burst out from the ground, and the loot from these monsters was highly prized. Therefore, the lust for profit blinded the people. The victim went out hunting on his own. This came about as a result of the emergence of the awakened. They came to be called hunters. At this moment, some person approached the slain monster. He had a chainsaw with him. They were called monster slayers, and this guy was their assistant. He looked confidently into the distance at this moment, for he knew what he had to do. The scavenger who handles monster carcasses sends them to the resource gathering department. In this pile of bones, always smells of blood and rot. He has to work his ass off for a promotion. And then, the guy himself is going to be a hunter. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to tell the kid to eat slower or he would choke. And the boy, in turn, said it was delicious. Grandpa looked at him with a sincere smile at this moment. Let him listen and heed. Tomorrow fate would bring him gifts. Of course, the boy could not understand what he was talking about. Grandpa called the kid affectionately, G, and said that to this day he lived happily with his grandmother. Tomorrow will be another beautiful day, so let him live like he did the first time. Even though the boy didn't fully understand what his grandfather was talking about, he still agreed with him. And at that very moment the boy noticed that his grandfather had abruptly disappeared. He couldn't understand what had happened or where his grandfather had gone. The frightened boy started calling for his grandfather to come to him. Then he started running somewhere. He stopped after his grandfather's words about G being kind and fair. The already frightened boy was even more frightened after that. Upon waking up as an adult, 28-year-old Ji-hyun realized it was a dream and assumed it was a prophetic dream. Not really paying much attention, he went to wash his face and brush his teeth. According to Ji-hyun's hunch, he's definitely going to have a good day tomorrow. In the dream, Grandpa said tomorrow, which means it's today. What would that mean? Gee, what a way to live. Ji-hyun began to reminisce about his childhood. Live happily ever after. He still remembers what he said. Stealing yogurt from someone else's bag. That was his last instruction then. Seeing elderly people with heavy bags, he always helps them, and part of the paycheck goes to help those in need. He does it out of the goodness of his heart. Then he often thought of his grandfather and his words. Ji-hyun quietly and calmly looked into the distance at this moment. He just likes it. Part of the highways were closed due to the accident. Seoul, Korea, 1920s. Citizens traveling on highways should be careful. In case of emergency, have them call the numbers listed. Cities in many countries were affected. Thanks to the barrier, the gate doesn't open as often. Soon people got used to this kind of life. The meeting place for the third assistant hunter is the dungeon area behind the thicket. Please ask the staff to put on their equipment and come to the specified location. 20,431. Assistant Hunter G. Chuck. Confirmed. There's a lot of monsters out there, or he's in a bad mood. It's the beginning of work. He was so very hungry. Damn hunters don't think at all, or powerful bigwigs don't think about them. At this point, the guy was standing there with a chainsaw. They wondered how big this monster was. The corpses of the monsters remain in the dungeon. At that moment, someone told him to be careful. The first impression was unforgettable. The smell was so strong that he couldn't touch his food, but in spite of that, the guy went on with his work. In time, he got used to this kind of work. At this point, they had pretty much finished their work. Great job, they told him. You're the best among the rookies. The guy replied that you shouldn't say that. It was something to be proud of, not embarrassed about. He couldn't understand what they were talking about. There had been more work lately, and he continued to work tirelessly. It was said that Ji-hyun was very talented, a helper who can't be found so easily. What's gotten into them, by the way? At least imagine him as a hunter. His reward is that he is now a hunter. He is congratulated, and his ability is awakened. At that point, the guy dropped his chainsaw from his hands. He couldn't understand what was happening to him. What it was, however, was yet to be discovered. My body was burning. What was this awakening? Are his abilities really awakening? They started asking him what happened, if anyone was hurt. He said his legs were just stiff. He was then asked if he had overdone it and was offered some rest. A lot of people were clapping around, telling him to be careful. What was that? Let him be calm, or this won't end well. He called attention to the real-time surveillance equipment. By the way, it was quite a pleasure working with the hunters. I never thought what it would be like to be one of them. He was informed that the awakening usually occurs in people under 20 years of age. Although last year a 31-year-old man awakened to his abilities and he's already 28. He didn't even know if he had imagined it or not. If not, he's in for a pleasant surprise. He's sure it won't be a week before he's in the monster's stomach. Ji-hyun was really bothered by this. How many hunters have given their lives? It would be nice to see for himself, but the job of a hunter is beyond him. He was asked to check his status. Ji-hyun couldn't calm down because of these messages. He was asked if he was done, and he said he had to go, but the notices annoyed him more and more. At that moment, 3 people were talking among themselves. Their group decided it was best for him to keep quiet for now. At least hunters have privileges like immunity, a reduced pension, and a gun license, but the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. A new dungeon has appeared. Hunters rush to clear it, risking their lives. All the trash is worth its price. The main characters began to change after their shift. If C classes still have a chance of survival, D and below have none at all. He was then told he had done a good job and the men in charge thanked the men. He was told that if he failed, there would be no power of youth. Everyone had worked hard. He has 7 new notices. As a rookie, he'll get 3 bonuses. He was very much surprised. He wondered what would happen to him next. He left the pasta at home. He doesn't know. His whole body hurts. Looks like he'll have to lie down for another 3 days. Ji-hyun realized that it was dangerous to work in such a state. Then a notification popped up for him to confirm his status. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what it meant to confirm. He knew about God's chosen ones, but why him? He'd heard that the world was in chaos when the creatures appeared, and rich ones at that. Hard to believe, but God exists, and that's when the first people with abilities appeared. But what does it mean? He has to learn how to awaken his abilities. Ji-hyun decided to have a soda. He started drinking. Ji-hyun said he did. Ji-hyun waved his hand. He decided to open the profile and waved his hand again. It worked. I guess this is the awakening. A time when he lived and worked as a hunter. His name, job, and level have risen. He was chosen to be a GodTube star because of God's interest in him. Let him follow the truth to get more information. Ji-hyun noticed that it's a very different management here. He didn't understand where he needed to press. Someone asked him if he was on the air. Ji-hyun didn't understand what it was or why it was today. He wondered if that was Grandpa. He remembered his words to live happily ever after. Maybe it had something to do with that. Ji-hyun put the jar on the table. He realized it was too early to draw conclusions. He needed to learn more. GodTube Social Star is a job given to him by God himself. He will receive assignments here from now on. Let him level up with special bonuses. Saving up power-ups to level up is also nonsense. You usually get points for actions with monsters. You can also use rare items and sell them at auction for extra points. Let him enjoy his new powers and score more points. There was obviously a catch. In his opinion, I need to check my status. Ji-hyun, employment sphere, endurance, D, magic power, F, charm, C, intelligence, beginner rank. Notes, let him collect more points to increase his status. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what it all meant. A newbie. What the hell is GodTube's other occupation? Is all this real? How did he become the chosen god? Or maybe he's using magic. What is this nonsense? Ji-hyun couldn't figure out what to do now. He didn't understand how he should take it. Let him build up his stats with likes while they make jokes. Maybe he's asleep. He didn't know what was going on at the moment. Ji-hyun realized that he had to decide something. Is there any way to disable this system? You need to emphasize strength and endurance. Then he can fight monsters one-on-one. But there was one but. He sighed heavily afterward. Experience tells me that magic takes priority. There's no counting how many hunters have fallen for lack of it. Now Ji-hyun had at least some plan on how he should proceed. He was asked if it was worth raising the bonus points of magic power to F level. Only 15 points to raise just 2 levels of F. Ji-hyun didn't know if he should spend them or not. Then he decided to spend them after all. The magic power was increased. 15 points spent. And now magic was accumulating in his body. At this point, the magic began to accumulate. What is this? It is magic. My heart is pounding like crazy. Is that normal or not? What now? He closed his eyes at that moment. Ji-hyun decided to open his eyes and see what was happening to him. He couldn't understand what this feeling he was feeling right now. His strength increased, circulating in his body. The magic temporarily increased his strength and stamina. He needs to collect likes to level up, but he doesn't smell with skills. He only has 2 points. Does he wish to open a skill store? Ji-hyun was surprised at how much stuff was here. He couldn't realize that these were all skills. There were a lot of them. Shard 1000, a world-shattering hit with the ball of the celestial devil. Rumor has it that it can even cut through the black dimension. Skill of a squire of SS rank and above. I am neither end nor end. Archangel Serenade, the healing song of Archangel Gabriel. Those who hear it can be instantly healed. They say it can bring back to life. It's just 9s. How many are there? So this isn't over. You can buy it all. Just thinking about it makes my head spin. Not much for 1 man. Let him show science for 2 points. Nadia 432 singles, science and 352 doubles. He's still surprised there were so many. The skill of healthy breathing and dimensional breathing. A brisk walk. Muscle aches will not bother you when walking for long periods of time. A satisfying meal. Even while walking, he is nourished. He will choose to eat optimistically. He will be satisfied under all circumstances. Quite cheerful. If this massage helps blood circulation in the body, restores stamina, you can use it on other people. It's just like a regular massage. At this point, he realized that he was going to get likes for it. He realized this was a great opportunity for him. He will increase his earnings for just 2 points by buying a massage analog. Headquarters of the Hunter's Aid. He came hard and he had to. He's been here before. Well, good job, but he wasn't going to stay here. He's not far away. He was used to it. He had a rough day yesterday. Why did he come here? He should have taken the weekend off. It's not every day. He should be relaxed. It's not an easy job. Confirmed. Good afternoon. Officer 20431. Isakov's camera picked up. Ji-hyun asked the men if he could see the camera footage. Why had the hunters seen the broadcast? Got curious if they could as well. There was a confidentiality clause in Mr. Um's contract. It would be bad if it aired. Though who enjoys gawking at monster corpses? He was thinking about hunter privilege, and rightly so. He'll be in the same group with him. Does he want to help? The man says he doesn't want to. He'll try it alone. Not a warrior in the field. Still, it's risky to ask a coworker to do that. Ji-hyun thanked him, and the men told him not to dwell on it too much. At this point, the system itself told him not to get too hung up on it. He got a point, then he should try to get a massage. 12:30 p.m. Lunch. Someone said he was very tired, but the lunch was unparalleled. It's best not to fill your bellies before work, and how can you eat while cleaning up the stinking corpses of monsters? Ji-hyun at the main office was asking about the cameras. Did he find out something or how did the rumor spread quickly? He knows or he doesn't know. He better not take any chances, and if he does, let him warn me. It's true, they're a team, they die together. The word is kin. By the way, he's in class today giving great massages. Who wants to try it? He wouldn't mind a taste. Whole body, but will do before lunch is over. Call to rest. All right, have him sit here. Ji-hyun didn't realize what would happen if it suddenly didn't work, but still Kairyusha, there was no way to try. He starts by warming up first. It's been a long time since he's had a massage. It's too late to back down now. Let him spend the power to make things right. Then proceeded to give massages. His hands moved on their own, a kind of automatism. The men at this point said he was enjoying himself. Ji-hyun tried to figure out what was wrong here. At that moment, he grabbed him by the waist. The men immediately felt pain in his lower back. Ji-hyun came back and asked him if it hurt or if he should stop. Let him continue. Looks like his back is good as new. Really, did it help or not? Where did he learn that? The way he moves his hands like he's a professional. It wasn't back pain, and he's a straight-up pro at it. Ji-hyun got 1 point. They'll check with him now. Let him be the first. Ji-hyun started giving everyone massages as promised. At this point, of course, he was getting points. All right, we'll have a lot of points soon. That's right, massage is passive magic, no cost. What if you add it to his hands while he massages it? If you add magic, the effect is more powerful. Ji-hyun decided to try to do that. At that moment, the guy felt some inexplicable pains. He couldn't figure out where he'd learned it. Let them know he became a hunter. He lives here, comes back, keeps it a secret. He improved the condition of the people greatly. He was given a science bonus. What's that? The level of massage was raised to rank E. Ji-hyun looked at his hands at this moment. Someone elsewhere asked, or is he that good? Let him give it a try. I wonder what the bonus will say on them. He'd be happy to. Even coming out of the clinic after treatment, he felt like that. That was great. Why did he hide such a talent from them? He was getting the point. He discovered the secret of massage with power, and the goals increased dramatically. Thanks to the massage, he scored 3 or 4 points. He was happy to help. After work, he went to the assistant hunter's apartment. Microcams or something, and that's all he came here for. They were all silent at this point. He asked why there were no other people. He couldn't understand why he would do that. It was the director of a company of assistants. So clean and tidy, a whole other level. Doesn't he have rare skin like monsters? Rumor has it that the director of the company, the grandson of Chairman Manduk-jong, is staying here. He took over relatively recently, so maybe he can help him. Their contract expires next month. It was like this. He apparently wants to fire him. Or what? He didn't sign up for this. What about his points and his level? The principal asked the guy if they could step outside for a minute. Everyone realized they were already expecting a guy. At that moment, the principal closed the door. Honestly, there was no way he had expected the hunter's assistant to make such a request of him. Until they went in, he was pretty brave. The main chest was very much in flux at this point. The principal, of course, was fine with it. Ji-hyun was surprised that he was. He would still find the right person. He would not languish him. It all depended on his answer. Like all his ancestors, he has fully assumed his position. Does that surprise him or not? Truthfully, inside the chairman, he thinks it's better to talk to someone other than him about it. The sooner the better. I'd like to make a down payment, but he has to keep it a secret. Once he reaches the next level, there is a reward waiting for him. He asked him, "Well, what now? How'd it go?" "It was fine. No problems." Ji-hyun said he took all the notes, and what did he mean by that? Thank God their company takes care of the workers after all. He's proud of his work. He thought they'd say no. Well, he seems to have a good tongue. When they came in droves, they went straight to the back. Now they had another bus to wait for. At this point on the bus, the director's word, naked. I take it. I never got it. Well, he got the camera. At the moment, he was holding the very same camera in his hands. The hunter's mini camera is very vouchsafed, so it will break someone's head than her. It records everything, different from regular cameras, though. Ji-hyun decided to take a look. He carefully began to read the cell records. At this point some earthquakes started. Ji-hyun noticed that the whole bus shook. He turned his attention to something in the distance. He decided to see how the circumstances were going on there. Oh, shit. In the beginning inexplicable things were happening at this point. After a while the situation seemed to calm down, but the whole city was shattered. The bus flipped onto its roof at that point. There were also a couple people on the bus who hurt themselves. One of them was yelling very loudly at this point. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what had happened. Eventually he was able to stand up, but felt a sharp pain in his head. So why did it flip over? At that moment he noticed blood on his arm. His whole body was whimpering at this point. Feels like he broke a couple or 3 bones for sure. Ji-hyun massaged himself. He began to notice that it was really all starting to help. Bleeding has stopped. Wounds are healing. Both physical and mental strength are restored. The massage rank has been upgraded to C. If it comes out, it will be on the armory. At that moment he noticed something. His face was frightened. He needed to hurry if anyone was alive. At this point, some person asked for help. Ji-hyun ran up to him and asked, "Is he okay?" The man then said that the man there was very badly hurt. He immediately knew what he needed to do at that moment. The man was indeed very badly hurt. He told the man to go away and calm down. It seems the wounds are deep. Can't he heal it? At that moment, he noticed that everyone was starting to come out. Ji-hyun told him to bear with him a little longer. That meant he could administer first aid. He tried his best to help the man. His health was recovering. His heart rhythm equalized. His massage rank increased. He discovered a new attribute, first aid. When you use massage, it automatically has a first aid effect added to it. Ji-hyun asked the man, "Is he okay? What's going on in here?" "I think something exploded." They needed to get out as quickly as possible. But Ji-hyun said to stop and they can't go there yet. "How's that?" "Need a hand. Call your wife. The gate has opened. There might be monsters. It's better to wait here. It's safer." Does he really think so? Well, if they're awakened. He said so. Ji-hyun said for them to wait a while. Once they're done, he'll call for help. Awakened by them. What happiness. Massage rank increased. Gained additional effect. When using massage gains protection. The main group got 10 points at once. He was given points for helping. He was being thanked at this point. They were unspeakably lucky to have an awakened man on the bus with them. Ji-hyun said he was just giving them first aid. There is no interruption of points. It really works. Very happy. There were still many casualties. Everyone was grateful that he was helping. He seemed to be helping everyone. Just like that, the asshole showed everyone that he was awakened. He wondered how the camera worked. When monsters are around, she turns on her own. Are there monsters here? He asked who else needed help. He's already saved everyone. Thanks to him. Let them be here. He'll check outside. It was only first aid. Be sure to let her go to the hospital and get it checked out. Then let her take care of herself. The city manager said he would be back soon. Then began to make his way outside. At this point, some boy was screaming very loudly right in the middle of the street. Ji-hyun was watching all of this at this moment. The chief smelled the odor of burning flesh. And then there's the smell of gasoline. At that moment, he noticed something. Ji-hyun realized that it was them. They were slightly different. Well, what is it? The gate opened in the middle of Seoul. At this moment, he noticed that there were a lot of monsters approaching. Ji-hyun also realized that they were goblins. Then some men started yelling that they were coming right towards them. They all started to run away, but Ji-hyun ran in the opposite direction. He couldn't figure out what to do. He's an expert in pipes, but not this one. Ji-hyun remembered that people were on the bus. Let them calm down there. He recalls. He is, after all, the hunter's helper. Ji-hyun started running toward the bus. Goblins run this way. Gunners, just get back to the gate. The stronger ones will be gone. Since the gate is in the center of Seoul, the hunters won't have to wait long. But for now, all he can do is protect these people. Let them run as far as they can. Let them find the nearest shelter and take cover there. Ji-hyun noticed that everyone seemed to have run away. Ji-hyun realized something and became frightened. At that moment, it was more accurate to see. He noticed the goblins approaching directly toward him. Let him calm down. It's not the time to get nervous. Ji-hyun decided to open a store. Unable to procrastinate, he decided to opt for a rookie kit. Rookie package purchased. The system asks to review the contents. He can use 2 skills at once at the start of combat. He got a basic set of gear. it really wasn't bad. He also has an increased level of magical power. Let him continue to increase his skill level. Rookie skills, strong mind. The description of a rookie is, he will fight to the end without losing his spirit. Skills for beginners, ball skills. Premium kit description, the bigger this room is, the more his stats and defense. His stamina will increase. The more other skills, the more strength and speed he gets. The beginner light is triggered by buying a beginner set. Ji-hyun assumed it was a sign that he was a newcomer. It was really quite humbling. We need to find out how many points he has. The remaining points are needed for attack skills. Power is the priority right now. He will direct all points to it. His strength increased to rank D. It feels like he could roll mountains. Great. That's enough to crack a goblin's skull. Ji-hyun didn't realize if there were still people here. He began to descend and approach the goblins. He noticed that there were 3 people here. Is he gonna make it or not? The goblins, of course, had a mean-spirited attitude, and one other said the appetizer was tastier here. All right, the gear will help. At that moment, he noticed something. Right at that moment, he was attacked, but he managed to fend off that attack. It was quite difficult, but he managed it. At this point, he began to be attacked again. Ji-hyun realized that there was a sudden attack on him, and then one of the goblins began to approach him. He started to say that Ji-hyun got what he deserved, realized things weren't quite going according to plan, and the goblin was laughing loudly at this moment. He continued to attack while laughing at Ji-hyun. What? Has he always been this good or what? He chops like that, just like he needs to, like it's natural for him. Could it be because of the increase in strength or what else? At this moment, Ji-hyun grabbed the shield even tighter than before. The goblin, of course, did not enter into this moment. Then they started fighting each other, and at this moment, Ji-hyun was much faster than the goblin. He managed to defeat the goblin after all. All that was left of him fell close to the guy. Ji-hyun really got it. His partners couldn't figure out what it was. The man and his daughter were also very much surprised by what they saw. Ji-hyun continued to stand confidently. He was calm, as if he was freely waiting behind the newcomer's kit. His mind was clear. So that's why hunters are so good at fighting. I wonder if everyone uses them or what. The rookie pack is more useful than ever. At this point, the goblins began to attack, so the hunter was bracing himself. Of course, Ji-hyun noticed it right away. Instantly he focused his attention on it. At this moment, the goblin noticed that Ji-hyun's shield was approaching him directly. Just at that moment, Ji-hyun's shield struck that goblin. Ji-hyun continued to attack them. Indeed, he chopped the goblin's head off. Just at that moment, he started fighting another goblin. The goblin was furious at this guy's behavior. Ji-hyun planned to retreat, but stood his ground. All right, at this rate, it won't be a problem to beat them. Against the gunman, all it takes is brute force. At this moment, the goblin was very much frightened. Ji-hyun was confident and calm at this moment. Still, he managed to push the goblin away from him at least a little. He was really pleased with the work he had done at this point. The goblin was very much surprised at how strong his opponent was. At this point, he was talking about stepping back, but at that moment, he began to attack the goblin. As it turned out, he threw his sword right at him. All of this was happening right in front of the father and daughter. Ji-hyun realized that this was it. As he got a little closer, he saw the goblin was dead. He got a notification that the ball and shield level had gone up. The level of hardened mind has been raised. He realized he'd done pretty well. Ji-hyun had 17 points and also had 21 points. Ji-hyun was surprised. So many points for 3 goblins. Calling Ji-hyun a hunter, he was thanked. The rescued citizen thanked him. He gets 24 points for saving his life and have him hurry up and run away. So it was possible. He got 3 points and also got 2 points. The chief goblin was surprised at the support he received. It was all very difficult for him. He'll figure out the system later. Raising the level of a monster rat won't work. He won't get any experience for it. Only his glasses will help him. They drip as they stare. But if there were none, then what? Stop racking your brains. He had seen hope turn to despair more than once. No enemies in sight yet. He can't wait. Ji-hyun decided to open a store. Search for magical skills. Let him show him whatever he can afford. He is looking for skills that fit his stats. Upon his request for one skill called Wild Scream, Ji-hyun immediately decided to buy it. Let it show him the remaining opportunity to use it here and now. Found 240 results. Need the ones with instant activation. Flying arrows skill found. He realized this was exactly what he needed. He bought it right away. Then decided to see if it would do any good. At that point it began to take effect. Ji-hyun decided to try it already. At this point, he held his breath, and after that, he immediately used Wild Scream. It really spread out over a very long distance. Purchased skills immediately heard this shout. They couldn't figure out what it was, but at that point, they were able to determine where this person was. Ji-hyun realized that it kind of worked. Okay, I'll try it on the next one or what. He held his breath again at that moment, then used flying arrows, then directed them all, oddly enough, at the goblins. They took everything into them at that moment. They clearly didn't expect this turn of events and didn't know how to react. And then all these arrows started piercing them all. With that, Ji-hyun noticed that there were none left. He was surprised that he got everyone down. At that moment, he felt some kind of pain in his head. He instantly grabbed his head. He noticed his head was cracking at the seams. The system informed him that he had been pulled out. He could figure out what it was, and assumed it was payment for magic. 2 citizens are grateful to him. He is credited with 2 points. He received 100 points from those around him. Very impressed with his actions, he realized that he seemed to be alive. Have him put half his points into magic. The rank of magic was raised. The pain was completely gone. Team A and B are on their way. The others are conducting rescue operations. They accepted and almost arrived. They were ready to come down to Earth. 5 minutes to target. Hunters can descend as soon as they get the signal. The signal to begin the sweep has arrived. At this moment, Ji-hyun continued to fight with the goblin. His movements were very professional. Already it changes where their traits are. Worn interesting. He'll get paid for holding off the goblins for a few hours. Okay, he can handle himself. But the goblins certainly didn't want to give up on the guy. Then some very confident and burly goblin appeared. Ji-hyun couldn't tell if they had arrived. But no, they weren't hunters at all. It was some very large goblin, not like the others. It was apparently an orc. He was ranked higher. He'd seen their corpses, though. He didn't realize they were so big. There were a few of them. The main group noticed there were more. The people are still in danger. No help is in sight. And now what? Just after that thought, he noticed the hunters begin to land. He was glad that the hunters had finally arrived. He was finally saved, because he thought he was going to die. One of the hunters was ready to attack. Right at that moment, there was a massive explosion. A second explosion immediately followed. It was so fast, but now you can sleep well. After a while, all the monsters were defeated. Because of them, she and her husband are alive. They are grateful to him. Let the hunter take this Uguri. Immediately began to refuse, for he saved her pregnant wife. But he asks, let him take it, and if he continues to desire them, he will be angry with them. Better let them be glad to be alive, and be sure to go to the hospital. 2 citizens thanked him. He received 100 points. He'd like to say thank you, too. The civil servant who overheard his conversation greatly admired him. He just did what he had to do and got 30 points. If it weren't for him, she'd be in a lot of trouble. He can't believe the gate is in the center of town. He's just as surprised. The media will say there were an extra few victims. Ji-hyun realized how it was. The men realized that Ji-hyun was a newcomer, can both melee and ranged combat. It's very rare to meet someone like this. Ji-hyun was a little embarrassed about it. He can go back home. They will contact him soon. Good, he understood. He'll also organize a group of helpers. The slain monsters will go for resources. The bill they'll send. The public servant got something. He got 10 points. Now he feels like a full-fledged hunter. Ji-hyun's house. After such a hard day, he finally laid down on the bed. Ji-hyun realized that he was fighting monsters. It was as if he was in a dream. I can't get the images of goblins out of my head. He fought monsters. That's when the notice came to him. He was congratulated on his debut. He made a fruitful effort today. Let them post today's entry on the platform to get more points. The reward is all the initial skills and ball and shield upgrades. It was worth it. He couldn't figure out how to upload the video. The system asks that he put his data here. Will it work? He doesn't know anything about technology. Ji-hyun was in anticipation of something incomprehensible. Ji-hyun said he would do it and went to bed. Download completed. Mission accomplished. Let him receive his reward. Once when he was a kid with a baby in his arms, he was running somewhere. He was telling the guy to drink some. Not almost on the spot. They arrived at the hospital. At this point, the guy started to turn to his grandfather. Just a little longer. Once Zora is down, Grandpa will buy him ice cream. Let him be a strong boy. The guy's spin at this point really wasn't the best. He was given an injection. He cried over it, for he was in pain. As promised, Grandpa bought him ice cream. Grandpa told him to eat slower. Grandpa was really scared for him. Let him grow up healthy and strong. Did he realize it? At that moment some music was playing. He realized it was time for him to get up. He picked up the phone and asked sharply what the hell it was. Ji-hyun, of course, didn't realize what he was talking about. He left work yesterday. He's all they talk about in the news. Ji-hyun can't understand what "in the news" means. Let him turn on the TV. He realized he'd call back later. What's in the news? Just at that moment, a story was playing about the place Ji-hyun visited yesterday. There were passages with goblins. They also showed Ji-hyun there. The guy noticed that he actually ended up on the news. As a material, SOSO. But here from the feelings love is seen on his face. The rescued men tell of a mysterious hunter. From the report, he is an awakened man. It is said to have 3 abilities at once, physical attack and magical power. He is only alive because of it. He also knows that after the battle he returned home without any reward. The authorities have inquired about him, but are not revealing anything. All of this, moreover, was uploaded to the hunter's social platform. Ji-hyun abruptly remembered about the platform. In this popular video, the savior hero actually showed up. They decided to watch him. What game he watched closely was everything. Is this footage really from the camera, or what? So, yesterday's video uploaded, and all night long, the video was gaining views. Better check everything out already. He decided to open the menu. After a while, the system started to open the menu. Ji-hyun saw that he had 999 and more unread notifications. He also had 87,000 points. A video uploaded yesterday has racked up 3,500,000 views, and 200,000 subscribers in just one night. Ji-hyun thought he was that popular. Is it realistic at all? Well, there are more views than points. Is that how it should be, or what? Points are based on likes and subscriptions. Views have no effect on them. Yeah, 80,000 was something. He's a modest man, but so many views and subscribers. Ji-hyun sighed heavily after that and collapsed on the bed. It wasn't a life, it was a dream. He fell asleep and woke up a star on the platform. At this moment, Ji-hyun noticed something. Who's in there? Ji-hyun walked over and asked who was there. Someone turned and told him to open the doors. Ji-hyun told the men to wait. He was very sure it was the principal. The director greeted Ji-hyun. After the first brother opened in the downtown area, shield barriers were put up starting in the densely populated areas. No new ones appeared after that. What was the cause? Research is ongoing. The exact cause is not yet known. On the other hand, the budgeted purchase of barrier shields is getting smaller year after year. This year it was cut by 50%. With that said, no one guarantees it won't happen again. He realizes there's no way around it without shields. Yes, but inexpensive rare shields can't be afforded by all countries. Common ones are found in 3-star dungeons. I see. So the higher the level of the dungeon, the higher the chances of finding them. The only problem is that right now only a third of guilds can axe 3 stars, and the differences between 3-star dungeons are on your fingers. Men can't believe it was true. For 5 of their countries, log mining is a matter of life and death. The problem needs attention. Let him see how people react. Ji-hyun asked what wind the director was carried to him by. At this point, he told the principal to wait. At the same moment, he grabbed a towel. Ji-hyun apologized. The bachelor's house is always a mess, but it's only for a moment. He walked very fast, but he bought something. Ji-hyun said it was beautiful. Well, that's roughly what he imagined. The principal admired him. He's a little stingy with the compliments. Ji-hyun told the director to take a seat. He'll go and get something to drink himself. The director began to take a seat. Before, he would have popped up as an unknown citizen, but now he's a hunter, and connecting with such people is nerve-wracking. How's it going? It was quite interesting. The dungeon made him feel like he was there for the first time. It was also lucky that there were no monsters to be found. Fortunately, their subordinate had arrived on time. He said he wasn't his subordinate. He's very talented and works the right way. At this point, there was silence between them. At this moment, Ji-hyun was watching it on TV. He had heard about the class this morning. He had to hide it, but there was still one but. Just think about it. The assistant has become awakened. He is very impressed by the experience. If it wasn't for the hunters, he'd be in a coffin by now. He showed up at all to offer him something. I wonder what he has to offer. He is now a hunter's assistant, but upon awakening, he survived and officially became a hunter. Is that correct? Ji-hyun doesn't understand what hunter means. Let him make a contract with him. Ji-hyun was very surprised at such a suggestion. The principal's contract was scary. With a rookie like him, there's no way. He confusedly didn't even know what to say to him. The director understands everything and explains in detail. And what should he do? His heart was pounding like a madman. Let him be sure. That part will get him that offer. But let him think again. The principal looked at him in surprise at this moment. The director responded that it was good. They'll do it together. It uses the skill of lying. The opponent checks the veracity of his words. He could understand what it meant and what the skill was. The ability to distinguish truth from lies. I wonder how it works. The rookie skill has been used. His mind cleared. So how do you know what skills your opponent is using? There must be such a skill. Denied. Resistance is impossible due to low rank. There's nowhere to go. He understands his concerns, but he really liked his abilities. They're amazing. Ji-hyun doesn't understand what all this foreplay is about. A frightened look came over him at this point. Perhaps he is aware that hunters with combined abilities are very valuable. He will give him all the terms. Does he agree? Ji-hyun said he wanted to know more. The skill of testing the truthfulness of his words is used on him again. There was a test going on, and it was true. The offer is very favorable to him. There's also something else. Sounds very tempting. Of course, he doesn't have to agree. He has useful skills in separating truth from lies. It's a good thing they have employees like that. He decided to get right to the point. About the terms, will he be happy with a 20 septillion contract or not? Ji-hyun began to ponder that figure. and when the realization came to him of how much money that was, he was of course surprised. He blurted out that it was an unrealistic figure, 20 trillion net, a 5-year contract, twice a month. He must engage in battles on behalf of their company. Sure, you can sign a contract for the full 9 years. What does he have to say about that? Ji-hyun stared intently at his phone. What's he gonna say? It's a fucking jackpot. But such fabulous money under such conditions, he doesn't sleep. Plus he can count on his younger brother for financial support. He's in law school. After all, he knows he dropped out of college and decided to work. How does he know that? Did he ask around or something? He's also going to have a personal assistant. How's he like that? Ji-hyun said he liked it. The director said that means he agrees. It's hard to know if it's real or if it's all real. In just one day, his life had been turned upside down. It will be on TV. Yes, the terms were in his contract. The director said he understood him. There was too much on his plate. He said that Ji-hyun thought well. The guy apologized and said it wasn't perplexing. The director just laughed it off and said that was fine. It was already settled. All that was left was his agreement. Then he came early. They had some time. Ji-hyun is surprised because of this turn of events. Should he take it? There won't be another chance. Ji-hyun said he agrees. Once it's ready, he'll let him know. Ji-hyun told him. See you then. After the principal left, the guy sighed heavily. Silence at last. Ji-hyun thought back to his grandfather and couldn't figure out if this was a misfortune. A few days later, the auditorium in the dormitory became the meeting place. Quite a few companies have shown interest in the newcomer. It is unique because it utilizes several abilities at once. There is no doubt that he will become one of the strongest hunters. Even among the newcomers he has already distinguished himself. There's still half an hour left. Manager Choi Hyun-jin noticed something at that moment. Manager Jong Ji inquired if Youngwa's company could just favorably represent him in such a light. Manager Han Seol Kim replied that he is nevertheless quite an interesting specimen. I would hate to lose him. He is so young and worried. The girl was in agreement with that. The company is doing it to spite them. Manager Lee Dae-young did not know that the contract had not yet been signed, and they could not familiarize themselves. The manager said he looked at the document. Every time he recruited newcomers, everyone had different conditions. He thinks it won't be easy this time. The man agrees. After above all, many companies are doing everything to get him, because it will affect the credibility of the company. The men turned to the manager. He's sure she'll do well. They are, after all, a treasure to their company. She knew she was gonna get it all pinned on her. Of course, this didn't please the girl very much. If he doesn't do it right, screw him. It sounds like they're looking for leverage. 10 years of her labor should not go to waste. This is her chance. So, with only 10 minutes left, he asks them to slowly pack up. The manager ordered him to be taken to them. So what's it gonna be? He really hopes to make it that easy. The girl at this point sat in bewilderment. She said she wouldn't draw conclusions. There are no parents, only a younger brother who is studying at law school, who is a good student and looks like a drop of water with his brother. Ji-hyun works as a hunter's assistant to pay for his younger brother's tuition. So much for life. Of course, she thinks it won't be hard at all to lure him in. She found a dating site. What a man. Haven't met anyone with that face. If so, they won't improvise. The 30-minute meeting is over. They will now summarize the results. They'll start with the Daehan group. So they start with the Daehan group. The girl stood up and picked up the microphone. The girl said they would start. First of all, she's excited to meet you. She is Hyun-jin, the hiring manager of Daehan group. There wasn't much time to prepare, but she did her best to create a comfortable environment. He'd heard that before. The principal listened to her intently at that moment. Their company offered an initial payment of 40 quadrillion, a 5-year contract, an 85-15 ratio with production. Everyone was very much surprised by this. Besides, a comfortable life will be provided for him and his brother. They will bear all the expenses of their studies. Ji-hyun now knows he has 40 quadrillion instead of 20. They just took it and doubled the amount. Even though the profit is 5% lower, it was insane, as they already know their company is a leading construction company in Korea. The house they will not provide will be brand new and with all amenities. Ji-hyun was very much surprised at how the events unfolded. Daehan Housing is the most elite in Korea. If Ji-hyun Group is the leader in information technology, they are in the construction and architecture of the neighborhood in which the new city of Gangnam, 120-story luxury apartment was built. The man in charge is rudely very much surprised. If he settles there, the profits will be even greater. The girl realized that this was her chance. After all, no one would think to offer more. After all, victory is definitely hers. The director was carefully observing the situation at this moment. Daehan groups were followed by the substandard conditions of others. They all offered different terms. The 4 most profitable are 40 quintillion cast apartment and 85:15 income. Also 40 trillion and 90:10 profit. 40 trillion profit 80:20. But if married, the income rises to 40 trillion, 80:20 profit and bonuses for each mission. He doesn't even know much about his abilities. Maybe he got overexcited on waking and thought he was all-powerful, and yet he needs to act. But that's not surprising. He'd been recycling corpses all his life, and in an instant he was different. Finally, it was the turn of the Chanhi groups. All of the representatives had good facilities. He wouldn't have thought it over for long. No doubt all is not tempting. But at 80 quadrillion and a rank B awakening stone, Ji-hyun was very much in love with the fact that he would get 80 millibillion and a stone more. The awakening stone very rarely turns ordinary people into awakened people. Which one of them offered the better deal? Would they be willing to take the risk for the newcomer? That he was carrying the 2 Class B awakening stones found last year are in their possession. By reselling it, you can make 20 quintillion. What does Ji-hyun think? Maybe he'll get a younger brother too. Ji-hyun realized that it was no longer funny at all. Things are getting out of control. Ji-hyun couldn't understand why it was him. Who should he choose? It's just a mess in his head. It's not something he can decide on his own. At this point he was approached. He realizes that it is hard for him to choose. It is unwise to make such spontaneous decisions. He'll let him think about it. The company offers to summarize the terms of the contract and provide it. His head is spinning. He's about to pass out for a few days. Where did he get the rock? The man asked Ji-hyun if everything was okay. He said he was fine, just his thoughts weren't adding up. Ji-hyun thinks he'd better consult. He wants to call his brother. The director said it would be a good idea. At this point, the girl started to walk away. Reception in general is vital. Let the director make everything top-notch. Let him not provide the awakening stone. There are zeros in the contract. The hand should not speak of compensation. It was Ji-hyun's brother. His brother was perceptive. He'll get it on time as long as they fulfill their terms. Is there any room for doubt, or do they have something to offer? His brother is in law school. I'd like to recruit him. He has no idea what they're talking about. And then there's a fourth point. What does that mean? The clause is unacceptable. It usually appears in all contracts for the awakened. What does he want to fix? He just wanted to clarify, but the director said he couldn't, because there are company bylaws. This seems like it's going to drag on for a long time. After 2 o'clock, this awakening stone really wants it. The minimum it can be sold for is 8 trillion. What's he talking about? He'll correct him. If he doesn't mind, he'll use it. He won't need it. For the awakened, this stone is useless. Then there's no reason to say no. And their family, so they'll be together. And he's really grown up. But you can't argue with him. His brother had really grown up. Here's the contract. Have him read it and sign it. He was really thick. The offer is dubious. But if it helps my brother, he'll take it. And that's it. Do they lose a little? Don't let him worry. Everything will go smoothly. Everything has already been decided. 80 billion. But he hasn't yet decided whether to sign or not. The poison clause has him wary. He's sure they'll have more B ranks. If only they're lucky, he thinks. And they'll be special hunters. Ji-hyun signed it after all. So the contract was signed. He wishes them much success in the future and the same. There was one more thing. Have him accept it and open it when he is home. Ji-hyun asked. Or was it a gift? Ji-hyun asked the girl if she was waiting for him. There were some things to discuss. They had already signed the contract. But it's about another case entirely. The brother at this point stood watching them. She asks him, don't let him misunderstand her. But the reality is that the Chanhi Group is one of those corporations that it's best not to mess with. Ji-hyun asked why on earth she felt that way. The girl hesitated for a moment. The situation there is precarious. She fears he will have a hard time. She says that in the battle for power he already knows. And then there's Jong Ji-han, a man who used to be called a maniac, where rumor has it that the chairman has disowned him. They said all sorts of things about him. He'd probably heard about the chairman's heir. Well, no way about this guy. This was the first time he'd heard of him. Came out of nowhere and took over the company. No one knew about him, but now he's on the rumor mill. Strange. Doesn't he think he's made a mess of things here as well? What couldn't you tell him before? It was definitely over. The girl apologized for the bad timing and wished him a good day. Let him forget what she said. He didn't think he'd just forget it. The girl held out her card. Ji-hyun was surprised. In any case, if he notices a violation of the terms, have him contact her. Their company doors are always open to him. Ji-hyun was still very much surprised by the whole situation. Immediately afterward, the girl left. The head brother asked his brother if they could take a little break and eat rice. What did they talk about? She gave him her card. The brother marveled at the persistence. The head brother simply remained silent. Is it true? He doesn't look suspicious. He hardly does. And who should he believe? His brother asked him or he froze. He wants to drop out. The man in charge couldn't figure out if he was crazy for daring to quit. Let him not shout with his mouth full. He has good prospects before him. Why should he waste his time? But he dreamed of being a lawyer. He didn't understand what dreamed meant. He just wanted to live the good life. Is he thinking with his head or not? He's too reckless. Ji-hyun was furious at his younger brother. But there was one but. It's easy for him after all. Let him think better of himself and about waking up too. He's got plenty of time. If a new contract is offered without him, let him sign nothing. Always give him a warning. Jong Ji-hyun's father is the son of the chairman. 3 children before him have reached their heights. There is not enough information about them, but there's almost no information about Jong Ji-hyun's father. It was as if he had found something at that moment. The 4th son threw away a lot of money after the bombing. He was caught drunk driving and caused a chain accident. The site was deleted. Is that it? Or is there something else? Are they really hiding something? All of the brothers had a marriage, a settlement or something that set it apart. Perhaps that's why the chairman disowned him. There's very little information about either of them. It's hard to be famous. His every action is discussed, and he's not comfortable with that kind of life. She didn't seem to be lying. You can't tell from him, but the facts are there. Come to think of it, he was squinting at him strangely when they first met. He doesn't understand anything. Ji-hyun decided to approach the gift the principal gave him. The revival stone was not received after a week. What was inside? He thinks it's something from that gate. Ji-hyun is surprised. There was just a wristwatch in there. The men in charge couldn't tell if they were simple. By the way, he had the glasses saved up. He decided to open a store. I'd have to buy a skill or 2. Points are very important if he wants to become a hunter. Though you can find stuff in the dungeon too. He's going to start with something simple. So what it is, the design is like a different one. Started thinking more about what doesn't matter. Finding skills and assessments. Total current ability skill activation time should be around 10 seconds. Found 121 search results. It's not easy to find the right skill. 100,000 points. So expensive some sage's eye. He now has 108,000 points. He'd need to allocate it to defense and recovery, so he can't afford that much. Let him find a cheaper analog. One quest result is an all-seeing ability. Understanding the nature of the subject. The higher the skill, the greater the level to develop. Requires a rank of B or higher. Ji-hyun remembered that he had found just what he needed. The all-seeing ability has been acquired. Now what to do? At that moment some kind of book appeared in front of him. It seemed to make sense. You just have to focus on the thing. Ji-hyun decided to test it out with what he wanted to test it out with, and decided on that watch. He found them and picked them up. Ji-hyun decided to put his new skills to use. That's right, no rank watch. The category is artifact, a wristwatch created by a master from another dimension. Durable and water resistant. He can safely bathe or shower in it. Manufactured by Kai Altirian. There's no subject statistics. Here's one that isn't set. Really, a regular watch or something else. A gift is a gift. Let him wear it for now. Artifacts from new dimensions. Then he noticed some kind of rabbit on this watch. Ji-hyun decided to open the status window. He got 3 points for quick wit. He received 1 rookie point. It's not much use. The level is low. You have to gradually raise it. Stupidly looking at items is a waste of time, so they will be used for their intended purpose. Level 1 thanks to the rookie kit. He can safely use it. I wonder if he'll get to use it now. This store is very different from a hunting store, but items marked exclusive are not available yet. Won't get stronger while catching monsters. The protagonist needed points. It will take a long time. You have to develop skills. Eventually he will have all the skills like the hunters of the country. Ji-hyun had as many as 80,000 likes. Ji-hyun's magical heart accumulates magical power. Magic circle restores magic within the circle. Magic power is restored by 200%. Sylphid's blessing. The spirits bless him. His strength and agility are superior. He learned a bunch of skills overnight. 2 days later, Ji-hyun couldn't believe something. He did get a wire transfer. At that moment someone called him, and the guy was surprised that it was the principal. He greeted him and asked if he had received the money. He did and thanked him. And quicker than he'd anticipated, they'd soon send him a brochure for the site. He was glistening slightly from his work. He'll discuss with his brother first and they'll get in touch on how to talk things over. And yes, they'll call when they publish the article. Ji-hyun is about to go crazy. At this point, his brother came to the guy's house. Ji-hyun asked if it was the brother. The guy asked him if he got the money. Even she can't believe how many zeros there are. And so he'll live in this apartment. He thinks he'll find something more worthwhile. He's a hunter now, after all. He's already picked up a few options. Let him go no faster. Time is money. Ji-hyun noticed that his brother was very joyful. See Allah. Yes, it's a private group of hunters. Won't let him know how it's all set up. Let the gentleman join her as well. Then may he call him principal as he pleases. The hunter's written examination is complete. Hunter's exam, that happened fast. He's a former assistant hunter, one that didn't need extra paperwork. The rest would be explained to him in a hands-on class. Hunter's exam, a mandatory procedure for the awakened, after which he is entered into the database. It is divided into written and practical. Registrations take place only after passing both. That's the only way to become an official hunter. They risk their lives, but they get a lot of privileges. It was lucky that the assistant hunters skipped the written exam. He had already forgotten everything there, and the exam itself had become more difficult. Hunters are difficult to deal with. It's hard to dig through the corpses of monsters that harbor all sorts of poisons. What will the practical exams be? It will be simpler than the written ones. Observers will stand at the gate, in a training ground to assess his skills for attempting to murmur dress qualifications. Ji-hyun understood everything, as easily as he says it. First of all, let him buy the gear and start getting ready. Maybe he'll ask for it. He's on the fence about a good safe house, but so far no luck. No problem. He'll call back soon. 2 days later, Ji-hyun asked the principal, but it wasn't worth it. But he's supposed to take care of the newcomers. He was planning to talk to him anyway. Was he wearing his seatbelt? Then they drove off. Since he signed a contract with their company, he should report problems right away. What kind of house would suit him? The more details they write, the quicker they'll match him. He hopes he'll keep up with him. He's not holding anything back. They're partners about the exam. Let him show everything he knows. Then he'll be given the appropriate rank. Ji-hyun gasped and said that he understood. It was so quiet here. This is the refuge complex where the Chanhee group hunters live. He had heard of it. It's newly built, specifically for hunters. They've had a lot of newcomers to their company lately, so they decided to expand the suite. No wonder the company has so many competitors. He is fully justified in his position. Now this house was his. Let him settle in his life here. It was beautiful if everything suited him, and they could sign a contract. Isn't that new or what? Yeah, well, the owner passed away in the dungeon yesterday. The main Gruber is very much surprised by this. One of the best hunters in the company was written about. So this was his home. It's not a good death. The director offered to take a look. How can he be? It's not the kind of house he was looking for. He's obviously not comfortable here. The director began to escort Ji-hyun out. A split second later, they stepped inside. Ji-hyun couldn't understand. It might be his ghost. After a while, they passed into another room. Ji-hyun noticed something. There's a fun picture of 2 men. The first owner of this house was a right-hand man. One so talented passed away in the midst of a power battle. Ji-hyun was surprised when he said, "Power battle? Did he get killed or what?" He hoped he wasn't being dragged into these games. The director asked how he liked that and said every hunter could afford a house like that. The best refuge from monsters. I wonder if it will live here until old age or what. The pay is reasonable. He doesn't want to move. And hunters don't get taxed. Favorable, doesn't he think? GH is running low. This company is best not to be messed with. His words are not out of his mind. A place where hunters live, remote from the eyes of strangers. Here's to the contract. Once inspected, have him head to the training center. Soon all the hunters will gather there. Ji-hyun was surprised when he heard about the training center. He's the brightest rookie this year. Ji-hyun began to read the contract. At such a size, the price of the house is quite low, and the shape is unusual. Ji-hyun noticed that this was all strange, and asked, should he show his brother? Sure, by the way, he can practice at the training center. Ji-hyun asked her, is it true? He splurged on it, so he hopes he will recoup his investment. As he spoke, Ji-hyun, when would he get the stone? His brother said he would like to receive it next week. He was very determined, but that's in the evening. Everybody didn't want any more. Better think properly. He continued to look over the contract. We need to be on guard. Our brother's life is at stake. The director asked if they went, and Ji-hyun told him affirmatively. Here it is, the Hunter Education Center. Ji-hyun looked up in surprise at this moment. They were both standing in front of the doors to this center. Because of a possible leak, they had to secure the place. Ji-hyun was surprised. It's quite bright and cozy here. The director said they were almost there. The protagonist was very much surprised by this. At that moment, someone said hello to the principal. He noticed that there were a lot of newcomers, but everyone was in different costumes. He didn't understand if it was supposed to be that way. Ji-hyun said he has confidence. Naturally, because it's a turning point in life right now. Everything was right. He hopes he doesn't have to embarrass himself. As he was told, the faction fights are pretty brutal. The exam is serious. No place to go. At that point, they arrived where they needed to go. The protagonist immediately hesitated. He noticed how everyone was practicing at this point. Ji-hyun cruised looking it was all wet. Is it possible to not be in on the joke? It is their responsibility to make their facilities available to hunters. There really were so many varieties of everything here. The corporation is huge. At that moment, someone turned to him. It was his brother. He asked when he was coming, and Ji-hyun told him that he would at least say he was coming. It was boring to sit on his ass while he fiddled with paperwork. The director said the work was not easy, yet he could call him with him. He apologized and said he had forgotten. Ji-hyun told his brother that he really rocked. The coach wasn't here. He had been in good shape before, but now, not even close. You can't leave the room until practice is over. He'll be out soon. Ji-hyun passed him a glance at this moment. Haven't even used rocks yet, but a knowledgeable real hunter. It really was impressive. The director said he's about to spar with the hunter, but he has not yet awakened. How can he mate? Let him worry. As long as he's not practicing just physical fitness, it's just sparring, there's nothing to worry about. Still, a hunter with a regular person is kind of weird, Gora asked, or they wouldn't use the abilities after all. Just let him trust him. Here's to seeing how it goes. The moment will come out. Not everyone has prepared to watch the sparring. Such an atmosphere. The guy instantly went on the attack, and his opponent was a foreigner. The director said there was an attack, but he was also a rookie. His brother has a great physique. Finding a suitable opponent was not easy. The protagonist couldn't understand. It wasn't like it was dangerous. He couldn't understand, or his brother had lost his mind. He said he wouldn't put his best foot forward. Then the two of them looked at each other. Ji-hyun asked him to be more careful. The guy's opponent moved instantly. He dodged his punches. Ji-hyun noticed that it was unbelievable, hitting so hard that the wind flowed. How strong he was, even without using the skill. He is a professional hunter, but his brother was no slouch either. He was dodging. In the moment, he realized that this was his chance to attack. Basically, that's what he did, with his foot. But the brother's not a bad guy. He knew he had a hunter in front of him and he was hitting full force. At this point the men shouted to him that he would do a great job. Let him do it. Ji-hyun was surprised that there was even such a thing. That's when the enemy was ready for the next attack. The enemy did look a little scared. Brother Ji-hyun was also dodging. The guy even started to back up a bit. At this point, the guy hesitated for some reason, and then he saw a solid punch flying at him. Eventually the guy was able to punch his opponent. Here it opened. It was all me, gone. Immediately afterward, the guy fell from such a hard blow. Of course, he was quite surprised. He hadn't expected this turn of events. Even the main character was surprised that the guy just fell over. Seems to have hit a point on the chin. The headmaster didn't expect him to be so strong. Fighting on par with the hunter. The kid was really good. And his keen eyes are no less surprising. He has not seen men that read any hunter's movements. He deftly dodged the attacks. Talent on nothing. Think now, there's no use worrying. Oh shit, the guy started saying something in his own language, and at that moment, he began to attack the enemy. Ji-hyun noticed that the guy didn't hit once, and yet he had that men against him. So how does he do it? At this point, the guy started attacking again, and in that moment, still managed to take him down. That kid. He realized that if he lost to him, he would be ridiculed. Then he abruptly decided to use force. Of course, everyone immediately noticed it and realized it. He just swung around to deliver his strongest attack. Ji-hyun said to stop at this point, but the guy couldn't stop anymore. He was ready for his attack. Then the guy himself noticed something amiss, but it was too late. His opponent had attacked him. Of course, no one expected such an abrupt turn of events. The blow was indeed very strong. The impact was so strong that he flew back several meters. Turns out he had a dent in his chest. Then he got out of the ring altogether. Of course, no one expected this turn of events and didn't know what they should do. The main character immediately ran up to his brother and asked how he was. He then told the men to just lie there and take it easy. Unfortunately, my brother started coughing up blood. A man ran up to him and asked if he was okay. Have them call a medic. He's bleeding. Why did he use force? The men reasoned that it was an accident. The fighter probably didn't hold back, but asked what accident meant. You could see on his face that he did it on purpose. That scum thought he was going to lose, so he used the ability. His brother told him it was fine. Ji-hyun told him to be quiet and activated the massage skill. First aid to the injured. He gains 1 point of skill experience. Ji-hyun noticed that it didn't help at all. I needed a doctor after all. He thought the guy just didn't have experience in sparring. Beforehand, they'd said they were carrying. At this point the medics arrived and asked to be released if they would take the patient away. After a while they put him on a stretcher. Ji-hyun told his brother not to worry. It'll be okay. He'll make the guy apologize on his knees. His brother didn't answer him anything, just gave him his hand. At this point, the principal wanted to address him. He said he was sorry it had happened and that he himself had said the fight was safe. He was right. He apologizes profoundly and will take all the blame and have a proper talk with him. It was as if the guy at this point didn't feel guilty at all for what he had done. Ji-hyun disagreed and said he would piss him off. The principal was stunned by this response. Then he said it was too dangerous, but he wouldn't let it go that easily. The principal afterward looked at him with an understanding look, but then he informed the guy that he understood him, and he would help him, for that matter. After a while, he stepped back to talk to the fighter. The foreigner was a little surprised by this. Ji-hyun, of course, wanted to avenge his brother and make him apologize on his knees. The fighter at this point just stared at him, showing no emotion. Shelton accepted my loss and promised to get on his knees and apologize. Ji-hyun couldn't tell if he was mocking him. Worth a smile, but then he'll regret it for the rest of his life. But since he's a rookie, they changed the rules. Shelton agreed to use his ability. Ji-hyun asked, meaning he can use them however he wants. Right, the fight will be tailored to his talents. The protagonist asked if he could use any abilities. He can, but there's some nuance. Shelton can turn his body into metal. He said he wouldn't hit seriously, but he didn't mention defense. It turns out he can turn defense into offense. The principal asked if the guy was sure for sure. Chief Ji-hyun answered him positively. He mutilated his brother, and he'll get what he deserves. The rules require him to give up. He can get out of the ring. He'll lose if both sides agree on ability. The guy was clearly enjoying the whole thing. Judging by the look in his eyes, the men whistled and said they could start. Ji-hyun was ready to start the fight. The principal was watching him closely at this moment. Does he use his full defense? He knows little about him. What will he do? Of course, as one would assume, the guy immediately used his ability. He instantly turned his body into metal. Well, he did as expected. Now, he used Sylph's blessing. The spirits blessed his agility and strength. Everyone couldn't figure out what it was. Were those shimmering things wine spirits or something? The director apparently immediately realized what the skill was. Despite all this, the protagonist began to approach the enemy. Let them try, but his pathetic efforts are a laughingstock. That's not all. He continues. He used a rank increase, speed increased, wind magic increased. Ji-hyun became more confident as he began to approach him at this moment. Of course, everyone was more surprised by Ji-hyun's decision like this. At this point, he started just running around his opponent. Even the guy himself didn't realize what he was doing, and Ji-hyun said at that moment that he understood everything. He then activated the shadow, stepping on the enemy and accumulating some of his speed. The speed steal lasts 10 minutes. With his defense, he won't be able to move. The guy realized that it was too early for him to give up. He would become a laughingstock. At that moment, apparently everyone realized Ji-hyun's plan. Admiringly, the students remarked that he had gotten 2 points. He needs to finish it. He won't get another chance. Ji-hyun only used flying arrows. Strangely enough, he immediately aimed them at the enemy. He hadn't even expected the fact that he couldn't react. Let him cry to his overseas mommy. At that moment, the enemy's foot came out of that fog. He at that moment began to attack Ji-hyun with such speed that he seemed to be huge. It really was amazing. But Ji-hyun was confident that victory was his. Using the acceleration skill, with this skill, he easily dodged this attack. Of course, the enemy could not have foreseen this and was very much surprised. Ji-hyun began to attack. A little more. Ji-hyun said he was finished. And then he used speed kicks and white and black shadows. Then he told him to get his S ready. Everyone was surprised without exception. The director couldn't believe his eyes. The guy realized things were going badly. He couldn't believe he was fighting a rookie. Ji-hyun was confident, cold. At this moment, he really couldn't believe the newcomer in front of him. Just at that moment he saw the guy for the first time. The blows were powerful, but slow. He didn't understand how to approach it. Why did he choose close combat? Not knowing what awaited him, Ji-hyun continued to dodge. Maybe he should get one of those defenses. Indeed, the rack is already holding. It's time to call it a day. The guy was shocked at his opponent. He did hit it after all. The arrow's body triggered. Then, Ji-hyun realized that this was his chance, and in the moment began to approach. He then dodged his attack, and at that moment began to attack with his sticks, then began to circle the enemy from behind, and then, oddly enough, started attacking him from the back. He's got cuts on his back again. His defense isn't that solid. Ji-hyun looked at him carefully at this moment. Then the guy attacked him again. The blow was so hard that the guy stopped moving. Ji-hyun was ready to launch his follow-up attack. Then he actually defeated this guy. But Ji-hyun didn't think they were done yet. They're done because he's waiting for an apology. At this point they began to stop him, for he could have died. Even the principal was asked to stop him. Still, the principal decided to intervene and said the fight was over. Once Shelton came to his senses, he would be sure to apologize. Ji-hyun put his weapon away after all. Hunter Jong-han admired. He got 3 points. The hunters were very impressed with his fight. He gets 3 points. He surprised the coach. He got 30 points. At this point, the guy started being carried away as well. Just for the record, he was asked if he was definitely a rookie. Ji-hyun replied that he was, but he had done his opponent in. Oddly enough, the base attacks were so powerful. In addition, he was very competent with his abilities. He definitely has combat experience. It was really phenomenal. How did he only use the skills once? Where did he get those skills? Divine election. What is this nonsense? If that was the case, then it was no wonder he was using spiritual shadow abilities so heavily at the same time. Maybe you bought it at a hunter store. That's how many points he's got then. At that moment, some woman clapped. She said the fight was nothing. At that moment, everyone turned their attention to her. As it turned out, it was the principal's sister. The principal couldn't figure out when it was her. She told him she hadn't seen him in a while. Then she said he didn't look bad. She'd seen it all. She then asked where the guy lived. The match was spectacular. In a moment she threw something out of her mouth and it spun in the air. and at one point this chupa chupa was being caught by some kind of drone. My brother asked if it was the same drone with stealth technology. The girl said it was right, but they are still raw. She was already a master mechanic. She was the best in the country, but really was a celebrity. So will you introduce them or not? It was against the rules. Rules are rules, but an indulgence can be made. But the guy said that was ruled out. The girl said they would talk more on the subject. She then asked if they would take her. This one has a funny name, too. A spy drone. It was so small. Though 3 won't awaken him with a stone. Maybe I'll make her now. The sooner the better. The principal tried to substitute something, but the girl said she wasn't talking to him at all. She says to this little one. The man in charge says he's the one who was approached. The girl wanted to help him. She had seen him fight and she liked it. She was actually looking with a smile at this moment at him. Then all 3 of them went somewhere. The most sought-after master mechanics in Korea. The illegitimate daughter of Ji-hyun Group's second son. The principal said they didn't show up. A human. Well, a machine. Rumor has it that she can breathe life and love into things. He wants to see it with his own eyes. Those drones are hers, too. Thanks to her work, hunters can use abilities without fear of harming themselves. This is the genius that gave rise to magical engineering. He also heard that she had awakened with a stone. Ji-hyun asked for his brother to get help. She said it's almost done. It's about to start. Maybe they'll use the stone now. Ji-hyun gave thanks for everything that had happened. But he hasn't left yet. It's best in that state, so let her decide. Yes, I'm above average emotional energy. Now is the time. Ji-hyun was surprised with emotional energy. Human feelings are the determining factor in potential. There's something that works best on people in need. Chances are considerable. Let them use him while he is angry and unhappy. The girl asked if he would consent to first aid. She appeared so that he should be conscious. The guy offered to lie down at this point. Then he opened his eyes and asked how long ago she had noticed. Ji-hyun said he was awake, and the girl replied that that's what she said. How is he feeling? Nothing. Alya is not hurt. He was beaten up in front of his own brother. So not much. He was looking at him at that moment. They are brothers after all. Seeing them is a pleasure. Ji-hyun asked how he was feeling. He asks, taking it easy. He looked at him at that moment. He seems completely focused. He doesn't have a scratch on him. He thanks this girl. He asked how he could pay. Maybe she would offer something. Have him do 2 things for her. First, let him keep his promise. Ji-hyun asked what kind of promise. Just let her agree. Then she'd understand. Even though it sounded cheeky. The brother listened intently to their conversations at this point. What is she telling him? Just answer it, or what? Ji-hyun said he agreed. She replied that secondly, he will start a Mokpan channel on GodTube with his brother. He was very much surprised by this. Active platforms get points for active platforms. Dada is on trend right now. All expenses will be on her. Proceeds shared equally. You just have to eat on camera. Sounds like fun. Regardless, it's going to look weird. Got it on camera. The man in charge at that moment left the chamber. Will it help him score points? But he would still agree, for the plan was a good one. He could borrow a couple of his boys. No better than any doctor. Ears let him believe, by the way, how badly he wants to be. As much as he can. Putin knows that the hunter is thorny. He is sure of it. The guy said he was completely convinced. The drone at this point was already holding some kind of vaccine. Apparently, they are not responsible for the possible consequences because this procedure is not licensed by the state. I'm willing to take my chances. He's heard of her. She's older, known as a master mechanic, but people prefer to call her crazy. There are rumors that she does experiments on people. Bureaucracy is time-consuming, so they'll make it count as a formality. So the rumors really weren't lying. So how does it feel to be her test subject? She assures him that nothing will happen. Besides, it would be a pity if the brothers lost each other. Somehow he gets scared. I want to take her word for it. Yes, her accumulated years of experience inspire confidence. It's too late to backpedal. Still, the guy agreed and told them to take care of him. Intelligent and pleasant people are a pleasure to deal with. She offered to start, after all. By the way, she said it didn't hurt at all. It was like the guy on the contrary started to get more worried about it, but still said he was ready. He recalled childhood moments when his brother told him he had bought a ham. What does ham mean? Let him see for himself. He wanted to eat it as soon as possible. He can't say a word. Let him go and get some bread, and he'll slice it. My brother said he was moving rather. Just sat and waited. He was then told that everything was ready. You could eat. It was really quite delicious. At that moment, he felt something normal. He couldn't figure out what it was. Then he told him she was kind of weird. I can't figure out what started happening. He was very much frightened, for he did not see his brother in front of him. Then he saw some shadows in front of him. Of course, he was scared of it. He immediately ran out of the house and started yelling for his brother to help him. He coaxed and yelled he was scared. Just at that moment he stopped abruptly. After all, those shadows were already in front of him. He was literally completely immersed in them. He couldn't figure out what the signs were. He was trying to find his brother. Then he saw someone in front of him who said it was excellent. So he disturbed him. Of course, the guy was surprised who it was. He can clearly still feel it. At this point, it began to approach him. He can't figure out what it is. Then something happened to his voice. The men said it was all about him. He sought the way to the river of truth. Early he appeared. The guy couldn't figure out who he was. He was strong, his potential enormous. Let him wait and listen at least. The men began to move closer. Those who have comprehended a part of the truth receive from him the gift of what he desires. At this point, the guy was ready to say. He wants to help his brother and is willing to do anything for him. So he wants to keep the family together. Such an innocent and pure soul. A contented, interesting boy, but born into the ink and hieroglyphics of life. The path will not be easy. The guy still couldn't figure out what was going on here. At that moment, something began to form in the man's hand. Here is his gift. He is ready to receive it. He can stay here as long as he wants, but he doesn't have time. He'll soon go crazy. At that moment, some bright light appeared. The boy was frightened by this bright light. Then let the child of a perishing world forgive. He could not understand what perishing world meant. What's it all mean? And just at that moment, the guy came back once more. He actually jumped up abruptly from the bed at that moment. Ji-hyun shouted as he woke up. The girl was just watching at this point with a smile on her face. He shouted loudly to his brother. Ji-hyun walked up to him and asked him how he was feeling. My brother smiled and laughed and said it was okay. Ji-hyun was thankful to God that he wasn't hurt. It worked, and he returned safely. Did he say goodbye to Uningteng? Ji-hyun couldn't figure out who it was. The boy instantly remembered. So it wasn't a dream at all. At that moment, he noticed the drone was doing something. He scanned the guy. He reported that the scan was complete, and the girl asked what the result was. She was very surprised about something. She congratulated him, for he had an A rank. The two of them were very surprised to hear this information. The girl waved her head, confirming her previous words. Everyone started talking about it right away. Ji-hyun was glad it worked and congratulated his brother. The recorders were discussed in the training room. They won't help you scout the dungeon. They can coordinate with them deftly. Even teaching his class is unlikely to work. It's not like he doesn't know with his ability. Then let him use it and use it right now. The other also wondered what this ability was. The guy said he'd give it a try then. They were all excited to see the guy's ability. At that moment, he took a deep breath. He decided to visualize it in his head first. He noticed that he was already doing well, and at that moment, it was as if he began to gather a stream of wind near him. Then you got some hieroglyphics. The boy realized that he needed to act now. Then all those rubes began to envelope Ji-hyun. Of course, he clearly hadn't expected this turn of events. He asked if his brother had used it on him. He really wasn't at all happy about it. He noticed that his skin was starting to become rugged. Ji-hyun couldn't figure out if the skill was like Shelton's. From the moment they fist bumped each other, then he said his body was as strong as steel. That was really cool. The director also thought it was incredible. Maybe he'll do something else. He hasn't quite figured it out, just so far, but he can already amplify, accelerate and weight it. What the hell is it? Stuff like that. The director was very much surprised by this. He asked, that's all. Sure, the ability is good, but it doesn't reach the A class. The guy doesn't even know. The man in charge realized he was hiding something. She had something else to hide. He hopes he'll talk about it later, but somehow he became class A. After all, the guy at that point offered to sign a contract. Ji-hyun said he already wants to sign the contract. After all he'd been through, he expected him to broach the subject. Muhammad asked his brother if he believed that he didn't expect him to be so set on the contract. He doesn't want his brother on the day. If they are paired, their chances will be higher. He couldn't figure out if that was the only reason. He told him wherever he was, he would be there for him. The resident would clean up, but only in one place. He offered to drop the subject. He was an awakened now, after all, and an A class. Besides, I say he was indeed right. There was no use in convincing him. Then let him prepare the contract. He will also take the examination with his brother, but he will have to take it in writing. Is he ready for that? Of course he's ready. All of her substitutions he would only pass with top marks. Good for him. He's bright here, but then there's nothing to worry about. By the way, he seems pretty happy about the win over Shelton. The guy was surprised that he beat him, and that his brother resented him at all. He asked if the hunter was joking. Impressed with her skills, he got 3 points. Waves of the game said it wasn't worth the increase. Director, or he's serious. He's the only one who managed to overpower him without injury as well. That's commendable. Ji-hyun laughed and asked, is it true? He hasn't hurt himself yet. He'd like to see it. They will contact him when the contract is ready. He has things to do now. Ji-hyun said it's not easy to see each other later. At this point, the principal began to walk away from them. Ji-hyun told his brother that he did a great job, then said that there were now 2 of them. By the way, who did he meet there? How many have you been able to contact? He said enough. By the way, he saw inscriptions and symbols, but he couldn't make out anything. Ji-hyun asked what the inscription was. Perhaps it's because he's recently awakened and some god contacted him, so he saw them, too. He's had a few messages sent to him, but now because of these technical glitches, he can't get in touch with anyone. The lad asked if it was really so, for it was strange. There's nothing to be surprised about. His system is absurd as it is. He suggested we'd rather eat rice. Then why is the system deliberately blocked between them and the other gods? What do you mean, blocked? I mean, the system should be working properly, shouldn't it? That's disturbing. Ji-hyun didn't even know what to say to this. Still, they went out to eat. For eyes that see the truth, the ibis papyrus, and someone close to Hwan-hee. In addition, the real name appears directly. The gods who chose him are the same gods who sent him the message. There is a possibility that they are the four eyes that see the truth, aka Sang-se. The breasts have been seen since such a thing. He didn't know who he was. He doesn't know the details, but he heard that he was the one who invented the Chinese script. It is said that he was not only an emperor, but also powerful. Although it is not known for certain who he was, he could have made a great deity. Perhaps a skill related to Chinese characters will come out. His potential doesn't seem to be measured. There's a reason he's enrolled in Class A. What about Papyrus? He's easier to deal with. He's the god Thoth of Egypt, the god of wisdom and knowledge. He knows all the secrets of the world. Therefore, he is also called the god of magic, and one of his symbols is the ibis. He can gain ancient knowledge. Yes, since he's the god who found the Egyptian rubles, he must have powerful ancient magic. What are these writings? They link it to bugs. Also someone close to Hwang-hee. Someone close, what does that mean? Only Hangul comes to mind. He'd heard that some heroes, even when they weren't gods, could choose hunters, Egyptian rubles, ancient Chinese writing, even Hangul. One is left to wonder what abilities he might gain. How does he feel about it? I don't know. It's complicated. All these legends about writing. He had heard that a common man could not compete with the gods. But if we must choose, how about Sejong the Great? Well, since the writing he doesn't use can bring a bonus, so there's a better chance of success. Even so, he feels he should follow the god's advice. He just feels like he's missing out on something important if he picks the wrong one. However, he also feels that he can reach great heights. So, which is his favorite? A few weeks later, the day of the hunter's practical exam, the venue is Seoul. Let them not cross the line. They are asking them to follow the rules. There are more reporters than hunters themselves, probably because of that video of him and Shelton. In one fell swoop, he dispatched an experienced hunter, and it's not just journalists who are excited. Ji-hyun noticed this because there were no likes, and indeed, there were quite a few. They noticed that the principal was here too. Of course he should be here, to be honest. He arrived and saw that he was the first to be recommended. It's amazing, the whole country is going crazy with his every move. He said he was surprised himself. Doesn't he know that? They had to kick Shelton out for the same reason. He caused a lot of trouble and his professionalism was in question because they disagreed. He even felt a little sorry for him. If you look at it that way, Ji-hyun's fans are in droves. They even started a fan club in his honor and he had to take a picture with them. After everything that's happened, all people are doing is supporting him, hoping for him. Ji-hyun answered a little uncertainly that yes, candidates should now come to the examination room. Please let them follow the protocols and rules to confirm their identity. Ji-hyun asked if things were starting before they left. He found someone from Jeongjin to help him. What do you mean, help? Yes, it was a branch of Chonhee, CEO Ji-hyun Jong's company. At that moment, someone was approaching them. Their employee who was supposed to help him with his exam said hello and it was nice to meet her. Ji-hyun greeted her and said it was nice to meet her too. He remembered the time when he was an assistant hunter. Then they went where they needed to go. My brother was looking up at the tree when this moment happened. All he used to do was scavenge dead monsters, but now he's taking his own hunter's exam. Identity has been confirmed. Employees needed to obtain an entry pass here. Ji-hyun was confident that he would definitely pass the exam. He was more nervous than usual. It seems the others were having a hard time as well. Candidates were asked to move to the changing room and change into their examination clothes. Have them wait for the alerts before going out into the main hall. The man asked her to come this way. Then they all started to change clothes together, as they should have. Basic inspection room. This is where the basic physical examination of hunters is conducted. They'll have their lungs and eyesight checked, so you have to follow clear instructions. Next was Ji-hyun in training. Ji-hyun was a little flustered. He asked what it was. He was told it was a machine that measured the hunter's strength. You just have to go inside and stay there for about a minute. Level shows strength and ability, but words and names are not measured. Let them lie still until they say they're done. The person in charge said he understood everything and he would have the results of the examination in a week. At this point, the guy's scanning began. The practical exam began and everyone was asked to put on their costumes and move to the waiting room. If they don't have a personal costume, they can wear a basic one that will be provided to them in the locker room. Ji-hyun was surprised that one could wear his suit. At that moment, Ji-hyun noticed his assistant. She asked if he had finished his examination and relayed that Mr. Director had asked me to give him something. Ji-hyun asked cursorily what it was. It was a suit specially made for him. There doesn't seem to be any magic in it, but it's made of black ogre leather, very resistant to heat and shock. They say it's the handiwork of a famous Italian craftsman, and it's probably the most expensive suit here. Ji-hyun hadn't expected this and was afraid to imagine how much he was worth. And there was something else we wanted to give him. He was told it was his watch to wear during the exam. They're pretty heavy for a watch, probably because they're from another dimension. Waiting room. At this point, he had already put on his suit. The size fit perfectly and it was very comfortable. There were quite a few people here with their costumes. At some point, Ji-hyun sensed something and noticed it. He saw one guy start attacking another guy. He also noticed a broken glass on the floor. He started yelling for the guy to stop. The attacker asked the other how he could have failed to notice that ice should be put in the steak. Toth apologized and said he was sorry. The attacker called him a dumbass and asked him how he got an education in the first place. Everyone just watched it and remained silent. Some of the guys were looking at what was going on with a smile. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what was going on, but he saw that the guy was saying something to the other, demanding that he listen to him carefully. He hated being misunderstood and demanded to wait. Ji-hyun seemed to notice his red hair. The guy apologized and said he'd let him go. Ji-hyun asked for order to be restored, but again heard a request to be let go. He quickly realized what he was talking about and told the guy to let him go immediately. The guy started ordering around, calling everyone jerks who were ruining his mood. He asked if the hero or anyone knew who he was. Ji-hyun replied that he had never heard of him. He repeated again to let the guy go. The guy was greatly surprised that Ji-hyun was confronting him. He wondered what kind of power this was, if he was even human. What's his strength index? Ji-hyun continued to stare at him without answering. Then he again told the guy to stop. The guy became indignant, asking if he was tired of living. Everyone around them was excited and amazed at what was happening. The guy realized that the main character was really strong. Ji-hyun asked him if he knew him. The guy replied that he had seen him before. At this point, the guy started to use his powers. Of course the other guy expected it and was startled. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what was going on. Everyone was extremely tense because of this environment. This psycho only did it because he got ticked off. You can't use abilities on normal people. Didn't Shelton get kicked out for violating the International Treaty on Hunters? Why does everyone care? Hunters use their immunity as they please. We've got to stop him or there'll be trouble. At this point, the guy started to feel pain. His armor proved to be quite durable. Ji-hyun was right. Better to keep accumulating points. This lunatic is obviously not kidding. The guy asked Ji-hyun if he was going to stop him. Ji-hyun said it was a healing skill, and if it wasn't stopped, he could just heal himself. Ji-hyun demanded that the guy calm down and said that he was bragging too much about his awakened power. Now is not the time to brag, for everyone here is his enemy. If he continues like this, his abilities will be revealed, and if an uproar is raised, he could be expelled. The guy was starting to believe it. At this moment, everyone around them began to look on with disgruntled faces, and the one who was caught in the crush didn't know what to do at all. The guy finally stopped and said he'd be back. He was clearly unhappy that Ji-hyun had stood up for that guy. Ji-hyun asked if the guy was okay and said that healing would help him. He was trying to figure out who this guy was. He was an awakened one, a flame controller. His name was Radu, and he had awakened recently, right after Ji-hyun. Yem's last name did seem familiar. That's why he's so cocky. When Ji-hyun was an assistant, he often met rookie hunters who thought they were gods. They were then informed that the examiner had arrived and asked to be ready. She greeted them with a smile, full of energy. Her name was Yunrumi, and she was from the Ministry of Justice, so they probably didn't know about her. The protagonist was surprised that the Justice Department is a body that reports to the president. I think he heard that they specialize in murder and torture like the awakened. Now their face meant nothing. Usually the examiner would come in, but today was a special occasion, their examiner. It was suggested that they consider him a regular examiner and not dwell on it. She noticed that there are already two interesting newcomers among them, and the veterans are very interested in them. Ji-hyun tried to figure out if she was talking about him or that guy. First, they were handed out their paperwork. By signing them, they were agreeing that the government was not responsible for their deaths. Hunters often risk their lives, and if they sign, they will be counted as soldiers, not civilians. So they need to think carefully. The protagonist was scared to sign, but he decided to do it after all. Of course, he didn't want to back down and signed his name. No one even explained to them what the exam was all about. The woman was looking at them at that moment. Great, so we're all in agreement, because there's no turning back now. Now she's going to go over the ground rules. Let them listen carefully. The exam will take place in a dungeon. They will receive points that will be awarded automatically. Their actions will be recorded by drones, even if they can. She doesn't advise shooting drones. They also realize that they will have to work alone. Ji-hyun's main goal is to destroy as many monsters as possible. She doesn't care if they die or not, but Ji-hyun must guard his life. Does anyone have any questions? Everyone was as silent as before. The rules were explained and they proceeded to the next stage. Everyone was wearing blindfolds. With the armbands, they were to join together in groups of 5. Then they will choose their weapons. After that, they will enter the dungeon through the gate. When they entered the dungeon, a stone wall appeared before them. In the dungeon, people will be randomly assigned 5 people at a time to different points, so don't let them complain if they run into an enemy. Their task is to find the crystal ball by fighting monsters. The trial will end when the crystal ball is shattered. At this point, everyone was still in bandages. All right, have them put on their blindfolds. The exam is about to begin. It's crazy. They wish they could call the manager right now. They were told it was a safe dungeon, but it's more like hell. Is it okay to do the exam in a dungeon? Ji-hyun was very surprised. He sensed that behind that door everything would begin. At this point, someone threw off their blindfold and said it was a deadly boar. The guy asked his friend where they were going. Ji-hyun was greatly surprised to hear this voice. Of course, he recognized the guy right away. The guy recognized him too and was surprised that they were in the same group. Ji-hyun said it's his own words, the guy will mess it up. The girl apologized and said he didn't understand. This dungeon is part of the exam. The guy said he heard something like this happened in past exams. He was so strong that they decided to make his exam harder. Ji-hyun noticed the metal gloves he had on. A terrible choice. The girl introduced herself and said her name was Benjinin and the guy next to her was Benjin-woo. They were twins. Ji-hyun noticed someone else there. The guy said it was his cousin. They're all related, which means he's the only one unlucky. Now they are in the same group, but the brothers decided to leave right away, because they can handle themselves. Ji-hyun asked them to wait, for they don't know what is behind the stone wall, but the guy said until you open it, you won't know. The protagonist was sure that they would definitely fail the exam. At this point, the guy's brother started to open the door. Something was starting to happen. He told his brother there was something there. He was very surprised when he saw it. A monster hand appeared from behind the door. His brother told him to move over. They couldn't figure out what the huge thing was, but it had a lizard's head. It was a giant lizard. Everyone was surprised at what they saw. A giant lizard is impossible, for it is a monster that hunters fight. It is twice as strong and 4 times as fast as goblins. It also senses its surroundings and its skin is adapted to caves, making it 8 times faster in low visibility conditions. Sending him to the exam is insane, but the guy said it was just a lizard and let it attack. Let the lizard know who's in charge. He then told his brother not to attack at the same time. The guy told his brother to get ready. Ji-hyun immediately noticed something strange about this guy. He used the skill in such a narrow cave. Ji-hyun decided to use the Sylphid's blessing and shouted wildly. He then decided to release a telekinesis arrow. He had a clear understanding of what needed to be done. The guy understood what he had to do. 2. Outside the dungeon began to grow. So why so fast? There's no way to get back out. As the gate is closed, that means there's no stopping the exam. To survive, they will have to run and fight until the stone is shattered. Will Ji-hyun be able to do it? The dungeon grows. The more hunters there are, the bigger the dungeon itself becomes. The existing monsters are getting stronger, and it will be even harder to defeat them. However, they give more rewards for them, which tempts hunters. The hunters don't even realize they're bringing the monsters on themselves. Except for one person, Young-han. Ji-hyun hadn't told him about his abilities, and at first glance, he didn't seem any different from ordinary hunters. However, they are hiding something. Ji-hyun is really powerful and can change their future. This is confirmed by the growing dungeon. He asks him to hold on to it. Otherwise, everything will end. The battlefield is far away. Should he go on or go back? No matter how far technology advances, as long as this problem exists, the world cannot be saved. He must defeat them all to save his kind. At that moment, there was a huge fiery explosion. Ji-hyun thought that this guy didn't think at all about the people behind him. At this moment, Ji-hyun had a mission, the Scaly Dragon Temple, a medium difficulty dungeon. If he defeats the giant lizard and exits the dungeon, he can get an extra bonus if the quests are completed on time. Ji-hyun wondered if he was being bullied. After all, this must be a training dungeon. At this time, the guy continued to fight fiercely with the lizard. He laughed and shouted for the lizard to die. He was confident he could win. He then began to attack the lizard along with his brother. He told his brother that there was no end to this monster, but the guy said let them come. There were indeed more monsters, and new ones kept arriving. Ji-hyun said he's not an asshole. He knew at a glance that this team was a real pain in the ass. Ji-hyun was carefully watching the situation at this moment. He had seen many lizards, working with an assistant, but their scales were different in color. Ji-hyun couldn't figure out where the two were going. Are they really just going to walk away? Of course, why would they bother with the others? But if that's what they want, let them get on their knees and beg. No one could understand what he was saying or why he was saying it. Flame skills are best used to hunt monsters, not people. He knew that very well. They would only get in the way, and since they were in the same boat, they had to work together. Then the exam will not be difficult, and with it the chances of survival will be higher. Life is much more important than pride. The twins clearly didn't expect such a response from Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun continued to stare at them at this moment. The girl said she'd go with him, and so would the guy. That bastard would probably use them as a shield, so it was better to be with him than the others. He was a simple man and hoped they would get along. Of course, they had already seen how strong he was and would definitely be able to show them his abilities. Ji-hyun was surprised at what they said. The girl was a blacksmith, and used a hammer in battle. Her brother could make traps out of threads while attacking enemies. It wasn't a bad ability. He figured that one of them didn't have strong skills, and they probably wouldn't lose. They would do anything to win, and it would be proven. They're both already gone. Ji-hyun said they are also moving forward. Everyone supported him at this point. They began to move through the dungeon. Yamradu and his brother broke through pretty quickly. Ji-hyun cautiously moved behind them, studying the terrain and the giant lizards with the Eye of the Watcher skill. At that moment, the guy noticed something. Meanwhile, they've discovered a wall. Can she break it down? Should she just smash it down or something else? The girl took a deep breath, preparing herself. Then she used the full power of the hammer. With a blow of her hammer, she broke through the wall. They found a hidden passageway and emerged into the devil's hideout. She hoped the lizards wouldn't come after them, but she knew they would definitely be met in other ways. The guy asked his sister if she was okay. She seemed a little overexcited, but she had only used her skill once. Is it because it's weaker in level? He hadn't realized there could be so many secrets here. Perhaps there were several passages in this dungeon, and this was one of them. In such places, you can find your way around by following the clues. Both hunters were delighted with his knowledge and he got 3 points. He thought he should start by increasing their characteristics. After all, they had never fought together. He activated the skill. Beginning hunters increased their attack and agility levels. The girl thanked him, and so did the guy. The hunters were grateful. Their confidence in him increased, and he got 6 points. His expenses had been justified. Ji-hyun said they could start now. Ji-hyun and the twins moved on through the secret passage. Meanwhile, Yamradu and his brother were moving forward, killing all the lizards in their path. They didn't even know about the secret passageways. After a while, Ji-hyun and his companions reached the end of the passage. The girl figured they were ahead of the guys and the pass would be over soon. She warned everyone to be ready. At that moment, something began to happen. Ji-hyun shouted that the monsters were coming. He would go forward, and let the others keep up with him and keep up. Some of the monsters won't be able to get around them because the passage is too narrow. Ji-hyun decided to use shadow activation. The twins also decided to use their powers at this point. The lizards began attacking and closing in on them. One of the lizards immediately took notice of them, but Ji-hyun handled him with ease. The guy did pretty well with the rest of them, too. The girl, of course, wasn't far behind either. Though she was small, she could easily handle the lizards. Those who weren't killed by Ji-hyun were killed by others until he stopped. At that moment, the girl noticed something. Ji-hyun killed 5 lizards and received the title, Lizard Killer, rank medium. The title is given for killing 5 lizards in a short period of time. The lizards are afraid of the bearer of this title, but they didn't know that before. Ji-hyun said they will now recycle them. Ji-hyun noticed something at this moment. Then he pulled out his knife. Once they had disposed of the lizards, they immediately began processing their corpses. They took the magic crystals, collected blood and scales. He was paying attention to something. He said now, Scrooge's alchemy is the epitome of potion making. The low cost of materials and mass production can bring a small but steady income, and it gives more opportunities. Good thing we still have the option to buy it. Ji-hyun, of course, buys it. The guy tells his sister to look, because Ji-hyun is doing something again. She decided to see what Ji-hyun was doing. Ji-hyun activated Scrooge's alchemy. He can use it whenever he wants. 50 empty potion bottles and 30 neutralizers are available. Small capital, more possibilities. Ji-hyun realized it was more useful than he thought. The twins couldn't figure out what the skill was. Ji-hyun said that this is his new skill, alchemy. You can make potions with it. They were surprised that he had the skill of alchemy. The success rate has been significantly reduced due to low level in alchemy. Current success rate is 30%. He failed the attempt and the material went bad. He failed again in his attempt, and the material went bad again. At this moment, he finally completed the creation of the potion. This new potion is an ancient stamina potion. It is made of lizard blood and scales and is highly concentrated. It is used to regenerate physical and mental wounds, as well as increase agility for 6 hours. Great, you can get almost 1,000 points for one bottle. It took a series of setbacks to make these 5 bottles, and kill a dozen lizards, until the ingredients were transformed into potions. He got 5 points and then 3 more. The points were growing by leaps and bounds. Ji-hyun continued to fight the lizards. He received 1,000 bonus points. The task was successfully completed. Ji-hyun advanced and received 100 points. He was offered a bonus right away. He hasn't completed the main mission yet, but he can already get a bonus reward. Then there is no reason to refuse and the system will be updated. Ji-hyun realized that his system was going to be upgraded. The update has been finalized. The protagonist was surprised by such a process. Now he can get points from enemies. The main man didn't understand how it was that he could get points from enemies. At this moment, they began to be attacked, and Ji-hyun had completely forgotten about it. One of the monsters, of course, wanted to kill Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun decided to see how it worked. At this point, the lizard was ready to attack. Of course, Ji-hyun easily dealt with him. He was confident in his actions and determined. Then he instantly cut off his hand. The lizard got scared, and Ji-hyun got 1 point. Now Ji-hyun understood how it worked. He then completely chopped up that lizard. The other 2 lizards were shocked by his blow. He got another point. Great, now it'll be easier to save points. The main realized that even their art was being lost this way. But despite this, he continued his battle. The twins were also helping him in this moment. By then, they were a bit tired of fighting monsters. The guy told his sister to watch. The main one also stopped at this point and looked. They reached a huge door, and apparently it was the boss room, meaning they had reached the final part of the dungeon. He wasn't sure, but usually the boss was at the end of the dungeon. They didn't encounter any huge monsters along the way, so he's probably out the door. Looks like it's not over yet. Those bastards were still alive. Impressive. I didn't think they'd make it in one piece. The man in charge was surprised that he too was still alive. Who are these people? He must have allied himself with them. The twins weren't expecting such an encounter either. At this moment, the guy stood in front of the protagonist. The guy told him to get out and watched him open that door. They didn't even know what was inside and that it was dangerous to risk their lives like that. But the guy did open the door. Then he told his men to keep up. It's pitch black here, so be on the lookout. It's scary, but it's going to be okay. There don't seem to be any traps here, but don't let them relax. This is where it has to end. At this moment, the guy used his skill to light up the road. Everyone began to move deeper into this room. At some point someone said that he desired offerings. They could not understand who it was. And then the doors closed on their own. Everyone was surprised to see the door close. They were sure they were trapped. The voice said, 2 people. What the hell is that glow up there? There's something there. Ji-hyun immediately took notice. There was some kind of creature standing there. That creature looked like a demon. It was probably that monster. He told everyone to get ready to attack, spread out and not to bunch up. They couldn't believe it was a real demon. They needed to do something as soon as possible. The demon was indeed very strong, and Ji-hyun realized that it was better for them to retreat. He felt no bloodlust from him, which was confusing. The demon was silent, which also seemed odd. At some point he started repeating that he needed offerings. He insisted that it was the 2 men that he required. The demon was still standing still, not moving. Although he remained motionless, he continued to talk about offerings, and Ji-hyun began to suspect it was a ruse. He decided it wasn't worth fighting him yet. He told the others that he wanted to get closer and examine the demon. Ji-hyun began to cautiously approach him. Someone in the group thought that Ji-hyun was acting too recklessly. Meanwhile, the demon continued to repeat his words about the offerings. His behavior raised even more questions. The demon didn't move and kept repeating the same thing, like a broken record. It was unclear if he was going to attack at all. Upon closer inspection, Ji-hyun noticed the spades standing next to the demon. Next to them was a channel where blood was probably supposed to flow. He suspected that the demon only intended to activate the mechanism after the sacrifice. Ji-hyun shared his thoughts with the others, speculating that the demon might move soon. There was one serious problem though. It looked like the demon wanted to put someone on a spade. The group was shocked at what was happening. No one could believe that this was an exam. This level of difficulty seemed impossible to them. The situation was made worse by the fact that the demon was asking for sacrifices. After all, hunters were just regular people. One thing when someone accidentally dies during an exam, but it is quite another thing when it is required to deliberately go to your death. No one was going to willingly sacrifice themselves. At that moment, Ji-hyun noticed that the door was locked. They were trapped. Panic set in. People started screaming that something had gone wrong. Fear was increasing and many did not want to die here. It became obvious that they were not prepared for this situation. Most of them have not experienced risk at this level. One of the hunters suddenly drew his weapon and prepared to attack. Ji-hyun tried to stop him, realizing that this could end badly. but the hunter didn't want to stop and kept moving towards the demon. He demanded that the demon let him out. The hunter continued to attack despite the warnings. He was confident in his abilities and wasn't about to give up. In the end, he attacked the demon. However, unexpectedly, his sword shattered on impact. Hunter hadn't expected this outcome. The demon remained silent, not reacting in any way to the attack. Then something started to happen. The demon's eyes abruptly changed color and turned bright red. The demon let out a beam of light from its eyes, aimed directly at the hunter. Hunter instantly lost both of his hands. Soon there was nothing left of him at all. The group was stunned to see how quickly he died. Ji-hyun and the twins were shocked by this outcome. They didn't expect it to end so quickly and violently. The hunter was dead, and it seemed insane. Ji-hyun realized that it was urgent to leave or they would all die. No one understood how to fight a creature that killed a man in an instant. Ji-hyun asked his sister if she was okay after what she saw. He realized that if they tried to give the demon men, those men would immediately die. Turning to Ash, this monster was significantly taller than all the hunters they had fought. The demon continued to insist that he needed 2 victims. Someone in the crowd offered to fulfill his demands to get out of here. However, there was the question of who exactly they should sacrifice, and whether any of them wanted to volunteer to be a victim. Surprise swept over everyone when such offers started coming in. People in the crowd began screaming, demanding to be rescued. Ji-hyun remarked that if the situation continued, everyone would die. One of the hunters began to argue that sacrificing 2 wasn't such a big deal. But how could they do that if they didn't leave the dungeon? The finale was utterly inhuman. The hunter assumed they should wait until someone was dead. But then what would the demon do? The panic in the crowd became difficult to contain. The hunter who had spoken of the victims earlier tried to enlighten the others and urged them to shut up. He suggested not just giving up the 2 weakest. How could one fulfill the exam if they killed their opponents? Especially, strong hunters had a much better chance of survival. Production-type hunters tended to be the weakest and had the fewest points in the dungeon. One of them remembered that there was a production type of hunter among them. Hunter asked where they all were and suggested they settle down to discuss the situation. He pointed to the twins, who were the weakest and most useless hunters in their group. Hunter told his sister to hide behind him. He began to turn the others against the twins. The twins didn't expect things to turn out this way. Hunter stated that they should sacrifice these 2 to save everyone else. Hunter realized it was easier than he thought. This scheme had pushed the twins to the limit. Now he wondered what would happen next. He was well aware of how weak people were and willing to save their own skin. In such a situation, they should not lose their minds. Do they really want to become murderers? If they sacrifice, they all become murderers. But if they stay together, don't allow themselves to panic, they can fight to the winning end. To some, it seemed like complete nonsense. But nothing is impossible in the dungeons. The people began to listen to the hunter. One of them remarked that the other one was right. No one wants to kill, but they don't want to die either. They have to realize that there was only one way to escape. The hunters wondered what this method was and how it could be trusted. Hunter offered to be the leader, and if anything went wrong, he would victimize himself. The suggestion alarmed the twins. Hunter realized that he needed to convince the others of the truth of his words and then find a way to get out. However, it seemed to him that everything he was saying was just empty words and intimidation. Hunter Kim Sam-shik gritted his teeth as he listened to his speech. At this time, he had earned 1 point. Hunter Kim Ji was also impressive, scoring 2 points. Hunter Lee Miran was astonished, and this earned him 2 points. The people, inspired by his words, began to react. Their hostility began to subside. Ji-hyun remarked that this was just the beginning. Seeing the hunters begin to come to their senses, he felt hopeful. He had fully mastered the skill of the observer's eye, which had developed to the level of scanning. The list of items to rate had expanded. Now he could see some of the monster's characteristics. The ranking demonstrated that the demon was a D rank. Ji-hyun's skill level was increasing. He had reached full proficiency in using this skill, hoping to learn more about his opponents. Ji-hyun focused on scanning the demon. It was a great demon with an unknown level. His attributes also remained unknown, but he lived in the dungeon to evolve and become stronger. If he was offered 2 awakened ones, he could evolve and become a great demon lord. That was why he didn't attack them. Ji-hyun finally realized why the demon remained motionless. How did he do it? Why can't he be defeated? He thinks he wants to evolve using them. That's probably why he doesn't attack them first. That means he wants to evolve. Besides, he knows it's a water demon, so his attribute is water, and they should attack him with wood or light attributes. Right, so they have a chance. So he asks them to forget about the disagreement. That bastard is very cleverly disguised as part of the dungeon. He's a real monster. The guy didn't like this environment. He didn't realize who the hell this freak was. A budding master of the hammer and a budding master of the rebar. The effects would last another hour and the group thanked him. It's okay, you don't have to thank him. They've raised their levels a bit. They should be the ones thanking him. Ji-hyun said that they are not attacking now. Everyone was ready for such a demon temporarily. They believed in Ji-hyun and his words. Then at that moment they surrounded him, and just at that moment, the demon was the first to say something else and call them idiots. If he's right, there's no way he'll attack first. Goals took the use of the shadow skill. The one who rules the shadow is the black dragon of darkness. Black dragons, summoning. The one who rules my black dragon can summon him on his left hand. The deeper inside his heart, the stronger the spirit of darkness will be summoned. Only a smile soaked in blood will awaken the spirit of darkness. Let him be careful. Hunter Ban Jin-on, Ban Jin-woo, Kim Dae-ri, Lee Miran were deeply saddened by his black dragon of darkness. Your past is an account to hide the dust of that hunter. I hope the spirit of darkness works. He does not yet know the horror he is about to face. He will try to utilize all the darkness that has accumulated. The abyss will take away the eyes of this demon. A low-level darkness spirit will put a curse on the demon's eyes for a while. And yet that's what happened. The demon himself couldn't understand what was beginning to happen. The demon couldn't understand what Ji-hyun had done to him. The demon saw nothing at that moment. He tried to resist it somehow. Great, he's blind. Careful, he's about to move. Fortunately, his resistance to magic was weak. He realized it when the sword touched his body. He's nearly invulnerable to physical attacks, but magic is another matter. That is the balance of the dungeon. Here's a moment of surprise. The demon moved after all. That's why there is no boss monster without a weakness. And then he pounces. Let him attack with attributes of wood or lightning. Of course, everyone immediately instantly adopted such a plan. The level of a dungeon can be easily assessed by fighting its inhabitants. Many experts tend to believe that dungeons are artificially created and someone manually moves them and creates balance. They all decided to fight the monster. Damn worms. They think they can overpower him by taking away his eyes. He said he'd kill them all. One of the guys wasn't expecting him at a time like this, but Ji-hyun came to his rescue. He thought he was much slower than him. Missed. This speed is the dungeon's balance theory. It doesn't work. So it was him, the bastard who used the dark curse. Angry that he couldn't kill him with his beam, he has to keep drawing his attention to himself so that other hunters can attack him from behind. At this point, someone turned and said his opponent was him. The main one was watching the demon closely at this moment. Ji-hyun continued to fight him at this moment. He was confident that he could beat him. The demon was still using that spell. He said he had some pretty good skills. He was able to get it at that speed. That bastard's moving too fast to catch. This guy won't tell by it. But he's great at dodging all of this demon's attacks. Ji-hyun was actually pretty good at dodging all the attacks. He decided to use a shadow spirit. The demon's movement speed and some of its defenses went down. He took the speed and defense of the demon. This monster is very strong, so he can steal its powers as long as he needs to. The demon couldn't figure out what the hell he'd done. At that moment, he was surrounded by everyone together. Then there was a tremendous explosion. Ji-hyun realized that everyone needed to attack now. Everyone let them all hold on. They can't beat him if they keep attacking. Then there was another explosion again. Something was starting to happen to the demon after all. It was like he was starting to loosen up a little bit. He then asked the guy if he thought it would help. Just like that. That's all they worms can do. Everyone became wary after those words. The demon then launched an attack. Ji-hyun realized that he had let his guard down. They're all in danger now. At this point, someone told them to get out of the way. This was the guy who was sure he killed him and said so. Let them behold the full power of his fire. Let him try to dodge if he can. He began to apply the demon's fire steps. The demon seemed a little wary at this point. Then the explosions started happening. The demon was indeed completely on fire. He said the guy was a creature, but still, the demon was able to escape this trap. Don't let him worry. He'll fry his ass over a slow fire. The demon became furious at those words. The guy immediately attacked him at that moment. But surprisingly, the demon dodged his attack. The guy himself didn't understand how it was all happening. How on earth could he dodge his blows like that? The guy was furious about the whole situation and said he wasn't going to die finally. Let him go back to hell. At that moment, the guy noticed something. Unlike that boy, his powers will be few. The demon was laughing at him at this point. The guy flew off into the wall behind him. The blow was so strong that he started coughing up blood. And then he collapsed. Everyone immediately began to worry about him. His brother, of course, immediately started running to him and told him to get someone to help. Everyone looked at him in horror at this moment. He was fine, then asked his brother how he was. Ji-hyun couldn't understand why he was going through the trouble. The demon said that humans were filthy insects who dared to bother him. Let them take a look. Let them give up on the guy. That demon's back is damaged. That's how it really was. Something was glowing. They didn't realize that inside this demon was the very orb they needed to destroy. Ji-hyun realized it was that balloon. The trial will end when the crystal ball is shattered. This was talked about in the beginning. That is their goal. He said he would make them squirm in agony. He will destroy them all. Let them finally die. Everyone couldn't understand what was beginning to happen. What the hell is this nonsense anyway? Now this incomprehensible thing was beginning to attack them. One of the guys yelled out that it was poison. Everyone ran. They would get caught in the smoke and die. The demon said everyone here would die. Let them experience this excruciating pain. Everyone started running away from this poison. Ji-hyun realized that at this rate, after all, there is no new choice. The lizard's berserk pill reduced his weight. This pill would increase all his characteristics. Excessive consumption could lead to death in 30 seconds. He's taking a risk, but he has no choice at all. Ji-hyun decided to take this pill. He realized that they had to act now. The effect lasts 30 seconds. With that, he has a chance to remove it. At that moment, his eyes changed color to red. All stats are increased by 200%. He loses strength in his body. He may die after 30 seconds. He is asked to remove the pill after that time. That's what it feels like to get stronger. Let the system allocate all points to a strength. The rank of his strength has been upgraded to the next level. With the effect of the berserk pill, he temporarily gained C rank. Ji-hyun was indeed growing stronger before his eyes. His body was getting much stronger and more muscular. He was really getting bigger in front of his eyes. It was an unimaginable power. But he has very little time at all. As if the candle is about to go out. Well, how's that for them worms? Let them taste death. Ji-hyun at this point told him that enough was enough. The demon couldn't figure out who was addressing him. He started attacking and said it was his turn. The 30-second countdown has begun. Ji-hyun, of course, didn't waste a second and continued to fight the demon. He was persistent, for he wanted to defeat him as soon as possible. Even the demon couldn't figure out why the hell he'd gotten so strong. Ji-hyun realized that he still had plenty of time. It's time to finally call it a day. He began to extract this orb from the demon. The demon didn't even fight back anymore and just lay there, accepting his death. Ji-hyun was furious at this moment. There was no limit to his persistence. He continued to beat him as much as he could. Why it was so strong, he couldn't understand. His knife is almost all broken. He noticed that even the sword had broken. He was only asking to get on time. He couldn't wait for the moment when the balloon finally breaks. He literally has a little more to go. He was so eager for it that he didn't stop for a second. And within seconds, the pills were gone. Time was up. He'd spent a lot of energy activating it. But still, Ji-hyun did it. At that moment, he felt something. He'll be unconscious in 10 seconds. Ji-hyun was glad that he had won. At that moment, it was as if they all started teleporting backwards, back out of this dungeon. It was close, but he managed to survive. Ji-hyun practically fainted, realizing that the pill was running low. Still, he landed on the ground at this point. He was breathing very hard, and his eyes began to cloud up. The dungeon has been cleared. The points run is underway. First place went to Ji-hyun with 24,671 points. He has passed the secret mission. The reward for the completed mission is starting to be determined. He did it and he won. Sir, have someone help him and take care of the other wounded. That means they passed the exam. Ji-hyun heard voices. He made a recording. I wonder how many hits it will get. System upgrade completed. Version 2.0. The gods have taken an interest in him. At that moment, the portal to the dungeon was opened and everyone returned. They were surprised that the dungeon was protected, but it's already a test dungeon. Still, they were intact. They couldn't realize they were being called. They realized they had to go. These are called any reporters. The rescue team was ready. Judging from the energy going on, the dungeon was rank B. The dungeon gate would close soon. The woman could not believe it, for it was impossible. This gate was used as a test dungeon because of the low difficulty level. There were always victims, but never casualties. All security measures were prepared in advance. How did this dungeon become a rank B dungeon? Just how much did they manage to survive? And what was that look like? It was, in fact, her sister. And as always, she was holding a chupa chupa. She asked if she wanted some candy. She saw that she had brought almost everyone. The more the better. Of course. She's already requested medical drones. Not medical drones, just a little more features. She's betting that the DOJ people already know that these features are for research. The gate is opening. They'll be coming out of there now. Have the group stand by. The rescue team is ready. Let them watch. They come out. At this moment, the hunters began to exit, or rather, run out of the dungeon. They were glad they had finally gotten out. They were screaming about being alive. Quickly wounded deeply. He was wounded. At that point, they began to provide assistance to anyone who needed it. Some were carried away on stretchers. The woman couldn't understand what had happened there. Even so, they did not refuse to help. This is a test dungeon, after all. Can someone explain why their injuries are so severe? Weren't there more people? What does that mean? Isn't that Radu? The guy was not at his best at this point. He was telling them to let him go, because he was fine. The girl was watching him at this moment. How far will he go after the test? The flame attribute gives him a great advantage in monster hunting. The gentleman survived. He was asked if he had retaken the first place. Don't let them distract him. It's not about them right now. I mean, he'd let that bastard take everything. They couldn't figure out who he was talking about all this time. Just at that moment, Ji-hyun was carried out. Gemini told them to be quick. He needed help. This man is taking them all out. They must save him. Everyone immediately began to act quickly. Let them be more alive. But where they don't even know which hospital to go to. Never mind. This newcomer had passed the dungeon and be ranked solitary. Let him just think about how this news would spread. Then what about Mr. Yem Radu? Let him keep it in reserve. The headline should be about Ji-hyun. At that moment, Ji-hyun was in the hospital. His brother asked him if he had passed the exam. Ji-hyun, moreover, mentally recognized his brother. He was the one who was here. They would be coming to the hospital soon. Let him hold out a little longer. Ji-hyun asked about his flash drive, and his brother said he had it. He was sure it was the first thing he'd asked after waking up, a flash drive. He brought one. He has plenty of memory. Ji-hyun took the flash drive in his hands, downloading all video broadcasts. The saved data is loaded. The man in charge says she's putting it at his place. Don't let him worry. He'll post everything. Ji-hyun answered him and immediately disconnected. Either way, he did a great job. Its rewards are handled in the stumping of new system applications. Seoul Hospital. All went about their business as usual. At that moment, someone approached Ji-hyun's chamber. As it turned out, it was the principal who entered the chamber. The principal looked at Ji-hyun carefully. He apologized to him, but Ji-hyun didn't understand why. Who is it that makes the medication work like that? But at that moment, he recognized Young Ji-hyun's voice. The principal continued to stare at him. He said he had forgotten that Ji-hyun was special, someone who was willing to risk his life for justice. What is he talking about? What kind of life does the character have? At that moment, Ji-hyun asked him what he was talking about, and after that, he opened his eyes. The principal was surprised that he was awake. Let him ignore it. It's him with himself. Ji-hyun, after remaining silent, looked at him. The poison mixed with the devil's curses causes him to hallucinate. He brought the antidote, and Ji-hyun will be fine soon. It will also restore his stats. A pretty unique potion. Just don't mix them together. The great devil's raw vodka was injected into him. The curse status was lifted. His powers increased. Something began to happen to him. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what it was. Even so, he was wary of the curse the next time he fought a demon. He said he was very sleepy and this would be his last fight. They must realize he won't use it again. He hopes to be more careful with his body next time. Ji-hyun realized that this was definitely a ward for one. The director sent him to such a luxurious hospital. What was that all about? Ji-hyun noticed that there were a lot of wreaths here. He decided to get closer. He knew about his fans, but he didn't think there were so many. Ji-hyun let him get well soon and don't pray for his health. Let his hero recover. And this symbol is exactly like a thumbs up. It made the main character have a smile on his face. So cool, because he was once just an unassuming assistant to the hunters. But he didn't come all this way alone. How can he thank them? The reward calculation for the secret mission is complete. Have him click to accept the reward. The rewards for the main dungeon cleaning tasks are calculated, and the reward will appear when the calculation is complete. Ji-hyun didn't understand. Had it really taken that long? You also need to calculate the secret quest tasks. The reckoning for the secret quest had begun. In his first dungeon, he had successfully hunted monsters without engaging in combat, attacked a demon with no casualties, got bypassed after the fight with the demon started. His reward is the essence of a demon for successfully completing 3 secret missions. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what it was. That was the core of that very demon. Ji-hyun noticed that it had shrunk. Not bad. But how do we use it? Maybe he'll learn something here. He was asked to confirm the 2.0 update. He received a letter from the gods. Ji-hyun saw a letter from the gods. This upgrade allows him to communicate with the gods. The sun-eating dog asks him to give her the essence of a demon. The moon-eating man asks him to give up the essence of a demon. An agent of the wind. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what all these messages were. Panic gripped him. Why did they need that bead? An item desired even by the gods. Sure, he gets a reward, but in exchange he doesn't even know what it is or how to use it. It's best not to rush into it. That's when his brother came to him. The man in charge noticed he was here and asked what it was he had brought. Clothes and a reporter. The whole house was blocked off, just like the hospital. He couldn't even explain how he'd gotten here. If he's on his feet, he must be feeling better, the brother said as he turned on the TV. All the TV stations are talking about the exams he's taking. So what happened to the dungeon? As previously stated, the dungeon began to grow and take shape 3 years ago. He had already written an article about it, and evidence of the dungeon's growth continued to emerge. He also said that the biggest problem with the dungeon was that until he went in there, he wouldn't realize if he was leveling up or not. Yes, it is. There have been incidents recently. They can see all the news about the probationary exams on the website. Hunter uploaded the video to the platform. In it, he recorded the entire fight with the monsters in the dungeon. He gained public attention, thus pushing his video to the top. One begins to wonder if such a phenomenon has occurred in other countries. He had heard that it had happened in the United States, Russia, the Middle East, and Europe. This phenomenon only occurs in regular dungeons, not in regenerative dungeons. However, the authorities are convinced that destroying this dungeon would solve more problems. Although regenerative dungeons are increasingly appearing in many countries, Korea is the only country that has escaped the destruction of dungeons. At this point, footage of the destroyed city was shown. His brother was surprised that it was so serious, so it wasn't a mere coincidence that they had become hunters. In any case, it wasn't a problem. If everything he said was true, then they could no longer trust the said dungeon complexities. He knew the risks when he signed the contract, but he couldn't have imagined it would turn out like this. Ji-hyun needs to start preparing for situations that require more serious skills. I had to fiddle with the news photos. If it's true, he doesn't want to see it. Everyone's just talking about him now. Ji-hyun watched this moment. Ji-hyun is very strong. He is the first rookie hunter who was able to sweep the dungeon. That cut was something. I had the full version, too. Ji-hyun realized that it was indeed him. He also had 350,000 subscribers. Of course, it's a montage, and the willingness to sacrifice himself just to defeat a demon is incredible. Compared to that guy, he stands out so much more. Plus, he got a silver button. Ji-hyun was surprised that he would get a silver button. He thought it was some kind of nonsense. Battle with the Demon, Part 1, has racked up 1,218,441 views and Part 2 has gotten 1,812,853 views. Ji-hyun was surprised that there were so many hits. At that moment he turned his attention to something. He got 100,000 likes after completing one dungeon. She was very much surprised at such a figure. My brother showed me that moment. Well, that was awesome. At this point, some girl was coming down somewhere. She went down to some kind of lab. At this point, one of the specimens was a goblin, but at that moment, I felt an unpleasant feeling. What have we got here? Kim Yong-hee, biotechnology researcher. The girl told her to be quiet. She heard the sound of another world breaking, which meant that breaking was impossible. Dungeon restoration. Their dimension begins to fade as the dungeon and mu sprout more and more, like a tumor in a person. The girl decided to listen for herself. It's like the sound of yeast fermenting. She's right. It is the sound of the dungeon, which sounds like the symphony of the end of the world. The girl said it was horrible. Yeah, but you can't just wait for them to completely take over their world. At least it won't be boring. The girl decided to drink to the fading world and her health. The girl didn't understand how she could drink at a time like this. They still have a chance, and there is no need to sit back. The girl just waved back at her. I mean, she knows they're heroes, and the end of the world is very convenient for her dream. That's not like her at all. From that moment on, she laughed. And once again I laughed at the end of the world. Her dream is to learn the secrets of their world, the living creatures that inhabit it. She doesn't know if she is too smart for that. Her little brother, by the way, stopped by to see her. He asked her to gather a magpie demon to save someone. But how did he know about her? From whom but her could he have learned of her? But it was more than one thing. They were very much alike. They both suffered a lot. Does she think that's what it's really like? Shadows of the end of the world have begun to appear. It was the moment both brothers revealed their abilities that should be enough. The brother asked the guy how he was feeling. Ji-hyun said that he is feeling better already and that he looks natural enough in front of the public. What's he talking about? He doesn't have to do anything through force right now. Have him get ready quickly and have him start filming already. He has to record this video. Tomorrow is the start of intense training. He will edit the video himself, so he can rest. He's already a level, but how badly he wants to be. How strong enough for him to defend him? He'd have to get stronger so he'd never see him like this again. Ji-hyun was upset by such words. He also needs a hunter's license so he can go into the dungeon. The shooting started with the biggest news of all. Specifically, from their silver buttons, two brothers took a picture with her. The video was then uploaded to the platform. In the news, the protagonist was written about in every press, which gave more likes and the number of likes was increasing day by day. 132,000 likes. Ji-hyun's new house. Why is the floor so high? He's not used to it. Ji-hyun went to see his new house. He noticed that everything here was so expensive and rich. He continued to look around the house. He noticed that this place had everything he needed. He then decided to walk over to the table where the box lay. He wondered what was out there. They left the box with the demon drop. Eugene, the director, bought it at an auction with his own money. Why did he go so far out of his way to spend his money on this? He doesn't understand his intentions. He also doesn't understand why he injected him with that serum. What is he trying to accomplish? And why does he keep it next to him? The protagonist really didn't understand it. He couldn't think of anything. Although, if you think about it sensibly, he's quite the strong hunter for it. Here he has passed the hunter exam and has enough points. Ji-hyun decided to open a store. At that moment, the store began to appear in front of him. Maybe he should look at new skills. He has increased his rank and passed the challenging quests. A new reward list has been opened for him. The gods rule the world. have him look at his score. His store had been updated and there were so many options. You need to find a point on certain abilities. His fighting style combines several different skills. He doesn't know when an opponent stronger than him will appear again, like an exam. So he needs to get stronger. Let them fit and raise his baseline performance better. Even without using science, if the base stats are high enough, he will be able to deal even more damage to the enemy. It's been so difficult. He doesn't understand what's more beneficial. Ji-hyun realized that he needed advice. Who should he ask? Okay, if there's a community of hunters here with superpowers, he's sure the answer won't be long in coming. The world's largest hunting community. Ji-hyun joined the community. He began to gather the necessary information on all the C-rank hunters to learn their abilities and levels to pump up their skills. The information type skill allowed him to find dungeon items and skill books using his prophetic abilities. The hero was inspired by the novel's skills and decided to find similar ones created by the system itself. He worked hard after upgrading his skill, thanks to his previous carrier, to find the best path for himself. The skill purchase conditions can only be fulfilled by Ji-hyun. The protagonist was surprised that he could only buy it. Does the system itself pick up skills for certain people? The hunter system is an entity that performs the same function for awakening. It automatically calculates rewards after a dungeon has been passed. Now they're going to take a look. What the? They're asking for the devil's essence again. Is it so valuable that the hunter gods even ask for it themselves? While he was in the hospital, he tried to find out anything about this thing, but nothing came of it. My god, the wife is now holding a strong dark but useless power for humans. Ji-hyun wondered about this. After all, he'll be doing someone a favor. He thinks it's best for the other gods. There were many of them he didn't satisfy. It was better to make a pact with someone so that there would be no more problems like this in the future. Is it worth cooperating with this system? However, as much as he would rather not know it, someone is sponsoring this system. What should he do? He doesn't know what the outcome will be. Ji-hyun closed the store at that moment. Then he saw the heavenly spirit as a skill. He's sure this new skill will be very useful during future battles. In any case, you won't know unless you try it. He had acquired a heavenly spirit and 10,000 points had been withdrawn from his account. At that moment, something began to happen near that balloon. Ji-hyun noticed that he couldn't understand what exactly had started it. It was something invisible, not a skill book. Baekusen 8, my heavenly spirit. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what it was. And then a bright light appeared beside him. And then someone or something began to appear. Ji-hyun didn't even realize if it was a person. Whoops, someone spun, and it's a spirit created by the system. He's asking for a name. Ji-hyun was dumbfounded to see the spirit in front of him. He didn't understand what it meant to give him a name. Spirit created by the system, and if it is the 8th, then there are other 7. He will definitely be very helpful. What should he name it? He will use it during battles from now on, so naming the spirit after the hero would be illogical. Ji-hyun thought for a moment. How about Chok Otium or Renjenko? Let it be Chok Riang. The spirit said that he liked Jong Riang. The system-created demon entity is an inner demon. This item was necessary to create him. This method is used to create spirits like him. It was best to use them here on Earth rather than give them to the gods. That was the administrator's decision. Ji-hyun asked if he was serious. He was without a doubt. He then asked who the administrator was. This information has been erased from his memory. Then what is the system? It is a device that allows people to come to heaven. Can we know the details? The rest of the information had been erased from his memory. Everything important has been deleted. Well, there's no choice. He'll give him his first assignment. He needs a powerful large that will allow him to fight strong opponents. He understood him. Then he would return as soon as he turned on power save mode. At that moment, he began to fade away. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what he was talking about. And then he disappeared completely. Ji-hyun couldn't understand what this mode was. That's when he saw the fox cub in front of him. So that's the power saving mode. He is sure that his viewers will like it very much. Now he can look to him for skills. Let him get started. At this point, the spirit began to look to him for skills. It's pretty handy that he's looking to him for skills. Maybe he should take it off and act it out. Cute critters are best when they get on the platform. Ji-hyun is sure everyone will love him. Ji-hyun asked the spirit if he could take a picture of him. He could do it without asking him. The spirit then asked if he needed to pose. Ji-hyun said he'd better yes. He began to transform. His face changed dramatically. Ji-hyun noticed that he was getting so cute, so he decided to take it off. Then Ji-hyun took a picture of him. The spirit then proceeded to look to him for skills. He really was very nice. At this point, the spirit turned to the gentleman and expressed concern that the video he was now recording might reveal his skills. Does he think that would really be a bad thing? He even talks very politely. He is a newborn divine spirit. In other words, a spirit created by a god. However, for some reason, he cannot stay in his present form for long, so he plans to be around him in fox form. If he records it, the information could go viral very quickly. So he asks him to let him know as soon as he starts recording. Ji-hyun said he understood everything. He's even whiter than the office scolds him. The system made him so that he has to talk politely to people. And his appearance is cute and attractive, also the fault of the system. So he can safely use his appearance. Ji-hyun thanked him and said that he directly read his mind. Was he originally so nice and fluffy? Or is it still the fault of the system? Can he show results? After the spirit got to know Ji-hyun more closely, it realized that its master could only use points at the first level. He eliminated all the skills that could make 8 days, including sure timing, and proposed 2 martial skills, heaven and earth, a breathing technique used by narrow monks who are able to control heaven and earth. This internal breathing technique, like Qigong, utilizes internal energy for martial arts and develops physical performance well. Note, cannot be used while learning another martial skill of the breathing type. It can only be learned at the body level. Automatic energy increase, a skill that automatically absorbs energy from the environment, also helps to restore internal energy and accelerates the rate of internal energy accumulation. It is possible to increase physical data. The protagonist bought these 2 skills, and the result of the hunter satisfied him. What awesome skills were expected? If it's as he said, these sciences will help him increase his strength. That's right. He's very happy to be able to help him. He will try his best to become the strongest hunter he can be. Was he not mistaken in his choice? Right now, he can take a picture, looking for them to get even more likes that way. He'll photograph it from all angles so there's plenty to choose from. After filming, Ji-hyun started training. He didn't eat or sleep, and spent all his time practicing intensely to learn how to control the breath of heaven and earth. He increased his energy stats by 1, and his stamina and strength by 1. The biggest plus in this technique is that he can strengthen his body without increasing his basic strength level. If he raises his energy to 5, his agility will automatically increase by a level more. It's all thanks to internal energy and Qigong. It really goes well with internal energy, just as he thought it would. That's right, just like he said. It was really cool. Someone asked him if everything was okay. He thanked him, because it was all thanks to his help. He would contact him a little later to clarify if he wanted to fight in a real hunt already. What does real hunting mean? He made a list of dungeons, so if he ventures out, he'll take a look and pick the right one. Ji-hyun asked Roma if he would be alone. He prepared a team for him. Would he be okay with that? He understood, but he wants to choose the team himself. Let him think about his offer first and look at these guys. Maybe then he'll change his mind. He knows why he cares about him so much. Let him give him some time. He'll contact him himself. Fine, then don't bother him anymore. Ji-hyun wondered, was the battle for nothing? The spirit told him that they seemed to be planning something. However, no negative intentions on their part he could sense. That was strange. That's what he thought. He felt it too. It's hard to read people like that. They are somewhere between good and evil, so there is no way for him to understand their true intentions. To be clear, he's asking him, let him take it with him. I'm sure it will be very useful to him. Ji-hyun said okay. 2 days later, CBO Center, main office. He came here the hard and difficult way. Ji-hyun thanked him and asked if he was ready for the 2 hunters he mentioned. Let them come in and say hello. It was 2 girls. The protagonist met them. That muscular girl was Jong Chi-ben, and as it turned out, she was Ji-hyun's cousin. Relatives. So now it all makes sense to him. They don't look alike, do they? He doesn't even know. Such a physique and gorgeous muscles. He would definitely believe it if she said she was the champion of the women's league. She asked him to move a little aside. She wanted to show him something. At this point, to his surprise, she began to eat. She had beef jerky or something in her mouth. She can kill monsters and create massive walls for defense. Ji-hyun realized that she wanted to show off her abilities. At this point, the girl was ready to show off her skills. In the moment, she slammed the session to the floor. Ji-hyun was very much surprised when he saw this. The director was just watching and had been watching for a long time. The girl had a plain face. At that moment, Ji-hyun actually saw a wall in front of him. So it was useful in the battle. Depending on the material in the strength neighborhood, there will be no difference. She can also strengthen her body when she fights monsters. She also loves monsters. That was an ability. So what kind of meat is she eating now? It's lizard tendon. What an amazing woman. The hunter liked him and got 2 points for it. The other girl was a dealer specializing in ranged combat. Her name is Bell Hana. What a rare last name she has. She was an orphan and chose her last name on her own. She's heard that as a child she can't even remember her own names. It's a really pretty name. He likes it. She thanks him for it. Well, since she's a dealer, what are her powers? Her abilities are to control animals to determine the type and extent of the dungeon. She uses crossbows and daggers. She also likes to set various traps. Ji-hyun was interested in what she said about traps. The girl decided to demonstrate what kind of traps she could set. They were very thin that you could hardly see them. There are a lot of hunters who don't like to fall into traps. It would be worth showing them the first time you see them. Although this skill is meant for monsters, it works on hunters too. In fact, it works on allies as well. Yes, a lot of people hate them because once he can't attack. He would have found out about it anyway. If she's so cautious, why did she show her abilities? The girl looked at him at that moment. Ji-hyun didn't realize the atmosphere right now. Are they not getting along? Or is there something he doesn't know about? At that moment, someone apologized for being late. It was some guy with white hair. He was already here. He'd been warned he'd be late today. Someone else. He was definitely a hunter. Let him say hello to his team. It was Ji-hyun, their rookie. He was happy to meet him. His name is Shin Kwang and he is a healer on the team. He can call him by his first name. Now he's not at his best after training. Let him ignore it. Ji-hyun understood everything. Healing is quite a sought-after ability. He hopes it doesn't work, for the Rays have a job to do along with a hunter like him. The hunter liked him. I think they're done with the greetings. What does he think of these people, the ones he personally selected? It all depends on his answer. He will be very happy to work with them, as they are a talent. He was right, for they are the future and pride of their company. Each of them is a very gifted newcomer. So did he. This is the first time he's met hunters with such real abilities. They may not be suited for big battles, but they will stand out when fighting small but strong monsters. His brother is now in the final stage of his training. He will join them as soon as he passes the hunter's exam. Let him be sure he passes the exam. Of course, he's sure not going to be the strongest rookie in history. I wonder just how much stronger he's gotten and who else he'll protect. The hunters finished their greetings and immediately moved to another room to continue their meeting. They carefully discussed all the dungeons and the list. In the end, we chose a low-level dungeon, a glowing forest that no one has 100% cleared yet. The chief asked the spirit where he had been. He answered him that he was watching the principal. He can transform without anyone seeing him. No one would know about him, so there was nothing to worry about. Now that they've settled everything with the dungeon, Lena will go pick up the pie. There are 4 main types of items made by awakened blacksmiths. The first is the usual weapons and shields that can be purchased everywhere. They can be taken in battle and look static behind them. They are not particularly effective for novice hunters. The second is items made from rare monsters that are very hard to catch. You can buy them once a year or at an auction. The third are limited items made from studied rare materials that not everyone can get their hands on. Each exists only in one copy. The only place to get them is at auction. The fourth is custom gear made specifically for one person by an awakened blacksmith of rank and above. Awakened blacksmiths above are not after money. Sometimes they choose their own hunters and make gear to suit their abilities. However, the price of them is very high, so not everyone can use them. Ji-hyun wanted to get the usual items, but decided to listen to the spirit's opinion, and agreed to buy a weapon from the market to strengthen it with alchemy later. In the end, he bought a gun for 500 million and armor for 300 million won. AC plus grade double sword from an unknown blacksmith. Jacket by an unknown craftsman grade C+. All that was left was to fortify everything with alchemy. Ji-hyun asked if they knew about it. Underground alchemy room. Yes, this is the most budget-friendly way to make your tools much stronger. Then they'll start by engraving attributes on the weapons. It's about time. Activating Scrooge's alchemy. At that moment, something began to happen. After 2 flasks, the double sword of the unknown master evolved into the double sword of light and darkness of the unknown master. The unknown master's double sword of light and darkness evolved into a monocle, and the unknown master's jacket evolved into the unknown master's flame jacket. The unknown master's flame jacket evolved into a black flame jacket. Monocles, level B. Each sword contains the power of light and darkness. They harmoniously complement each other, enhancing their levels. He has a chance to unlock his Primus abilities. He must have the proper skills to do so. The Dark Blade skill is a sharp blade. Spruce mod. An unknown blacksmith has flattered Ji-hyun. This is a tool only he can use. Black Flame Jacket, level B. It is best not used without the help of alchemy. Ji-hyun retains the power of fire, and thanks to the double protective layer, resistance to all types of flames and various types of poison is increased. Blazing Black Barrier skill. Defense. The creator is an unknown blacksmith and the user is Ji-hyun. This item can only be used by him. Ji-hyun asked if they are definitely level B. If he puts them out on the street, they will be graded as level A or even higher. But the attributes were used, so there's no way to sell it. Right. Since the blacksmith was an unknown, they still wouldn't forgive an item in their name. Right now, they should hurry up. They were already expected. That's right. They'll practice and go to Yemi's dungeon. After obtaining the 2 items, he prepared various kinds of potions and food just in case, as well as household items like shoes, pants, shirts, and so on. Having gathered all the necessary things, the main characters set off on their journey. He's changed his clothes. Alright, so, now he can use his powers properly. A week later, the dungeon of the glowing forest. Among the low-level dungeons, this is the most dangerous. No one has ever managed to defeat the boss, so it has not been conquered yet. Ji-hyun can't get used to that smell. The spirit told him that the camp was there. He's not the last person they're expecting. At that moment, the girl noticed him. They are just in time. All the woods are packed. Everyone is waiting in their tents. The girl asked who it was. Ji-hyun said that he is a spirit in the guise of a fox. His name is Chi-liang. The girl said he was very nice. If he's not a real fox, he should protect himself so that no problems arise. Hunter reveled in his spirit. He got 3 points. As he thought, his cuteness is very useful. So it's another extra way to get points. They confirmed that they are the only team in this dungeon. They are aware of the restrictions of the dungeon laws. Usually only one team can be in a dungeon to prevent accidents such as hunters fighting amongst themselves. As expected, he already has experience in helping hunters. At this moment, Ji-hyun's brother was also here. Then he noticed his brother after all. He asked when the men had come. He hadn't really seen her. He thought he was getting ready to be a hunter, and it turns out he was already here. He came here first and hunted. He apologized for not warning him in advance. That's what he was doing. He kept wondering where he was. So he got his hunter certificate. Yes, his rank was A. So he came here early to improve his skills. Archivist. Rank A. Alters reality with letters written from the Library of the Abyss. Strengthens his body and gives him the ability to destroy monsters. Honestly, it all sounds so unrealistic. Even though he saw the ability when he first awakened. He's definitely changed now. The director said it seems they are all packed. Ji-hyun was surprised that he was here too. What was he up to? He came here, but he's their financier. He has no right to say anything about him right now. Since everyone was gathered, he suggested they start the hunt. They hadn't finished warming up yesterday. He hoped everyone understood the team's hunting methods. Ji-hyun and the rest of the newbies can follow the more experienced hunters. They all agreed with him. He hopes no one will break the clearly posted rules and disrupt their hunting plans. It is true that researched expects from the principal. Temporal beings of some kind were present here. The girl was just fighting them at this moment. She said they approached her as soon as possible. She decided to use a barrier shield. She was actually pretty good at it. She said about using her powers. The monsters would not be ready as they retreated and continued to approach. The principal said she went first. That's the spirit. Ji-hyun didn't understand where she got so much strength from. She had all the makings of a tank. The girl really didn't want to back down. Her muscles were stunning. She immediately struck out to use her ability. Then abruptly, a wall appeared in front of the monsters. They tried their best to get through it, but they weren't very good at it. At this point, the girl gave some sort of sign to start now. As it turned out, she signaled to the other girl who was ready to start attacking. At this moment, Ji-hyun's brother was also engaged in a gun battle. They were still fighting monsters at this moment. Some really did very well indeed. Ji-hyun was surprised that his brother had a gun. It was the most ordinary one, but because ordinary weapons rarely help in fighting monsters, his bullets were enchanted with writings. At that moment, Gore noticed the inscription. He can only use 1 2-syllable word so far. Amplify and destroy. Amplifies bullets and destroys debris. This is just from one word. That was really cool. It's an A-class skill. Whether you're using stitches at full strength or not, you'll still have a chance to go up for a decision. It was great. All she could think about was strengthening her body. Here at least his little brother now looked mature enough to stand up for himself. He couldn't figure out what it was. Indeed, inexplicable things were beginning to happen. The mushroom split into small pieces and flew over the fences. Parry was watching him. We were right above his head at that moment. The girl said there was too much of her. That way she can't activate the skill again. They broke through the wall. Don't let him worry. She had set traps here in advance. The boy was surprised that there were traps right in front of him. It really helped a lot and kept those mushrooms at bay. Now let him catch them before it's too late. He thanked just in time. The girl said to make sure they were valid. After all, these mushrooms can get out of the trap. They tried in every way possible to get through and get out of this trap. The guy couldn't tell if they had broken through or not. Just at that moment, he ran out of ammo. He decided he would fight hand to hand. He believed he could do it. He actually fought them with his bare hands. And it worked. Ji-hyun at this time continued. He couldn't figure out if that was his ability. The mushrooms were just bursting. Undoubtedly, his potential will help him reach unprecedented heights. It turns out, the power of writing was contained in his hands and feet. At that moment, the spirit noticed something. They were angel pigs. They were here. It was the kid's turn. His pigs began to fly away and attack. He could feel himself getting stronger in that moment. It really helped them a lot during the battle. That was fine. Teamwork, judging from his experience as a hunter's assistant, suited him perfectly. Isn't it time to intervene in this battle? Still, after a while, they were done. They can't divide the spoils without him. He was very strange. He wasn't even in the battle. He came to see them, and coming here was definitely no problem for him. I'm sure he had another goal in mind. Near the moment, the guy was drinking water. He was great. He must have practiced very hard, but you shouldn't cast him that way. His brother is much better than he is. The girl asked if it was true. Ji-hyun couldn't tell if they were discussing him. Well, the guy laughed and said it was no big deal. what kind of atmosphere they had. Did she really like his brother? The principal told them to listen to him. Next year, Ji-hyun wants to join them. What do they think? The brother seemed to tire of standing and watching. The girl asked Ji-baek how she felt about it. The girl said she thought it would be great. So, Ji-hyun is the same. If that's the case, he'd better stay close to her. She'd heard he could use CC, crowd control, and the ability to limit the number of mobs actively fighting, but could only do it once. The girl said it would help them a lot. They could use different tactics with his skills and wouldn't go far. Ji-hyun agreed to her plan. Great, Ji-hyun has joined them. They will definitely gain more viewers for the stream with his appearance. That's right, he's channeling on the platform, so he'll appear on the broadcast as a main character too. As the video edits, they'll be able to take a look at it in the public domain. Well, let him check his gear again and get ready for battle. Let Ji-hyun wait a minute. Please have her promise him one thing. Don't let him touch the boss. He's a huge, very strong 1,000-year-old tree. You can't break it that easily. If he touches him, he'll wake up and there'll be a fight. So if he wakes him up, he's in big trouble. He's a teacher. If this boss is that dangerous, it's best not to test your fate for views. They're in a safer section of the dungeon, but let them keep their guard up. Monsters can attack from underneath. The farther they enter the club, the more mushroom monsters they will encounter. Not so emit mushroom spores. If they inhale them, his stamina will be noticeably reduced. He's not immune to the poison of mushroom spores. He needs to use armor. Right. Black flame armor is resistant to poison and gases, and if you use it, there won't be any problems. Plus, everyone is already using skills and gear to detox. They really knew right away what they needed to do, and nothing else will be spoiled. Such is the wonder. The more one looks at it, the more one admires them. The girl at that moment noticed something. Ancient ruins. Let them be careful. There are monsters roaming around here. Creepy. The Mushroom Forest dungeon is a mushroom forest that has grown on ancient ruins. It's rare to find valuable artifacts here. Hunters are required to be at least level 20 because a feature of this dungeon is poisonous gas. At that moment, they noticed something on the ceiling. Ji-hyun told his brother to look. Such a huge mushroom covered the whole sky and it was getting darker and darker. Something for such a moment, a Sylphid's blessing. How beautiful is that on GH, or what? The hunter is grateful for the use of his skill on her. He received 5 points. It's a skill he's seen before. It's very useful in team fights. It can also heal and even change vision. Ji-hyun said that he's almost used to it. He originally bought the skill to make money, but now he realizes that it's the best ability of all. At this moment, the monsters were approaching them. The girl told them to wait, for there were monsters ahead. What do? Will they fight or retreat? There seemed to be a lot more of them than before. This is a great chance to utilize your new skills. Ji-hyun said it would definitely work this time. Besides, another hunter had been added to the team. Then Ji-hyun can take the lead and they will be there as support. He wants to see him in action. When he got far while he wasn't around, just let him watch carefully. Picked up the sword. He asked when they would test his new skills. After a while, Ji-hyun was ready to fight the monsters. He used a flaming motion. Blazing motion is a black flame that envelopes the feet. When using magic power, it easily increases the wielder's dexterity. You can also use the fire attribute when using the skill. Ji-hyun looked carefully at his target ahead. He decided that was how he would start this battle. He immediately used the light blades. He really fought like a pro, cutting through monsters like a pro, and he didn't even get monocles. The team got 6 points. Why he was so fast, no one could figure out. I think he smelled fried mushrooms. When he gets home, he'll be sure to fry mushrooms. The girl said it was time for them to move out. Everyone in chorus was in agreement with her. His movements are like the flow of a river. He will gift him a single. Ji-hyun asked. Only one for now he can gift, but that will change as the level rises. Ji-hyun only moved forward and didn't look back. He noticed that his team had started to move. At this moment, he noticed the following monsters in front of him. He decided to show them who's boss. But as of today, they all thought fighting as a team wasn't so easy. But still, they did a classy job as a team. All the hunters on their team are very reliable. They fit together perfectly. He couldn't tell if the monster was eating his children or what. Would need to help them. Ji-hyun used a flaming motion and the speed increased greatly. He used dark blades. Then his screams really got dark. He was ready to attack. He then used monoclips. He was ready to attack the monster. 3 hours later, they had already finished the battle. What a monster speed. Yes, he could only dream of such speed. They hunt 5 times faster than other hunters. I'm exhausted. Now I'm nauseous. I have to clear my head somehow. They were too tired. He knows they were doing well, doesn't he? At the end, they've destroyed all monsters except the boss. They can't share the reward. And end today's hunt here. There were more monsters than expected, so we'll have to call in helpers. A short time later, the hunter's assistants arrived. It was incredible, not destroying all the monsters of the mushroom forest in such a short time. At that moment, Ji-hyun noticed Uncle Kim. He went to him at once. The man was a bucket. It was really him. He still works as an assistant. Of course he watches the news all the time. It's all about him. And he didn't think he'd see him here. His brother couldn't tell if they'd worked together before. The director suggested going back to the base. It seems that the protagonist will stay here a little longer. The girl agreed, for she was about to boil some soup. The brother said he would go with his brother, and not let them go forward. Then they would see. Let them. They want to help him. He must be tired from hunting. Better let him go and rest. But Ji-hyun said it's okay. Let him stop taking away his job. He wants him not to feel awkward in front of others. Uncle is still as strict as ever. Likes to tell everyone off. It's just like old times. Doesn't he enjoy reminiscing about the old days? He'll show what he's learned along the way. The 20 helpers were very impressed with his offering. He got 41 points. At that moment his brother approached him. The lad asked if he would help too. After a while, the helpers did their job. The roots of the mushroom monsters hold rocks, so you need to carefully cut them off. If he breaks a saw in a day, it will break. He is truly a master of his craft. This is the first time he is seen cutting up monsters. How long has it taken him to learn this? To do this, they studied the anatomy of monsters. It was very interesting. So he was looking for material that wasn't in the textbooks. You could see that it was very hard. At this moment, both of them turned their attention to the sky in the dungeon. A system alert came in that the dungeon environment was changing. Right now, they can neither exit nor enter the dungeon. The brother asked the guy what it was all about. What was going on? At this point, to my surprise, the mushrooms began to come to life. Their roots are moving. The dungeon is changing. No one could understand what began to happen at that moment. The sky was so strange. What happened underground? And I think the mushrooms have gotten even bigger. The principal said, not that. The dungeon is growing. The guy understood what growing meant. Then we see that we need to get out of here. But Ji-hyun and the helpers are still inside. What should they do? They were all waiting to hear back from the principal. They're asking the principal to do something. They shouldn't stand there and watch, or what? At this point, the principal literally disappeared. The guy could see where the principal had gone. He checked in the tent. He wasn't there either. Doesn't that seem strange? I mean, he was just here in front of them. He's not here. Where did he go? He seems to have gone ahead. Using his skills. They're about the director. Then what should they do now? Judging by the fact that he didn't give any instructions, they shouldn't stay here. The girl at this point wondered what they should do. They need to hurry. They need to be on standby until help arrives. At this time the two brothers were fighting mushrooms. Just like that on the roof of the car. The guy quickly figured out what he should do in such a situation. Ji-hyun was no slouch either and knew what he had to do. The man behind the wheel at this point was rushing as fast as he could. Of course, all the helpers were very much in a tizzy at this point. At this point, the man in charge says he noticed something. The principal arrived and asked if everything was okay. Ji-hyun didn't understand how he got here, and asked if he had teleported. Just as he'd suspected, the dungeon is growing. Things are more serious than they used to be. He pretends not to have heard. Why are there so many monsters here? They must be rushing to help. We need to clear the dungeon before it's too late. They were surprised at this response from the principal. The director was asked what he meant, because he himself had said earlier that he wouldn't be the boss. How would they clean up the dungeon if they destroyed their bosses? Besides, there are still helpers left here. It's too dangerous. They are risking their lives. Will they be able to remove them? What will happen to the rest of the guys? One wrong action and everyone could be co-workers for the rest of their lives. The director really thought about this question. They both let him calm down and eavesdrop on his retreat paths, which are blocked behind him. Soon the dungeon gets to the point where the monsters evolve during the day. The only chance to survive is to destroy the evolutionary spirit monsters. The spirit said he felt the same way. Why was he so calm? Unlike him, he has already been in such dungeons, has experience fighting such monsters. Come to think of it, he does seem a bit too calm. Their main goal is to stay alive, especially Ji-hyun. He's their trump card. Whatever happens, he won't let him die. Ji-hyun was surprised by this. He's acting weird, but it's clear to him for sure. His life, he doesn't want all the effort spent on him. The brother asked the guy what their plan was. Is there anything he can do to help? The director said it's their only chance. Time is their life. One must hurry before evolution is complete. The director still looks calm. Even though they could all die here, the guy kept fighting for his life, and not only his life, but they have to go forward until their bodies collapse without strength. Ji-hyun will also help them. What would he be talking about? Even the hunters are having a hard time keeping up. They have no other choice. They can't just sit idly by. Besides, they get something out of the battles. The director will let them fight if possible. They were only able to provide them with basic weapons. If they fight together, they have a better chance of surviving than alone. After all, he realizes that fighting monsters isn't easy. If he dies and he's gone, then there's no point in fighting. The helpers shouldn't risk their lives, so just let them sit there. And if they have no choice at all and he is held back, he thinks they don't realize how important everyone's life is. They know everything perfectly well because they want to live. The girl at this point and the guy were watching them. The director apologizes for interfering, but if they don't want to summarize, let them do it quickly. He understands how he feels right now, but every second counts. The faster they act, the more likely they are to survive. Why did this happen exactly when Uncle is here? He understands everything. He knows how he feels now. There is no other choice. Ji-hyun realized that things were going badly. Everyone fell silent. Here was something uncertain. Ji-hyun said he understood, and would not go together. Ji-hyun, let him not worry too much. They are not so defenseless after all. He'll be driving. It'll be a little tricky as the dungeon grows. And not running out. Now let the helpers check their gear. The hunters need to group up, so rather gather in the car. Everyone started being issued their own weapons. The truck is designed to cover hunters and evacuate in emergency situations. The roofs and walls of the truck open right out. Have Muchak cover them. Belle Hana will sit by his side and help him with her skills. But what is she to do? If monsters stick to the car, have him create a wall to keep them out of the way. He doesn't know what trees are capable of, but he will confidently be able to fight back the monsters. Please let him take care of them. All questions are put for later. Protecting the deputy is a top priority. Please let her do her best to avoid casualties. Not everyone was impressed with his speech. He told the spirit that he was his eyes. He understood everything. Then they all made the decision to fight the monsters together. Everyone was doing their jobs just like Ji-hyun said. Everyone was confident that they would succeed. The girl was telling Ji-hyun to turn left. Ji-hyun said he understood her and was winding down. Then wisely flipped sharply to the left. So many mushrooms. In addition, physical attacks and magic damage monsters. And if a giant mushroom comes out, what then? We have to think of something. He asked the spirit to find him a skill. What skill does he need? He recommends him a blessed defense and a vast shield. Ji-hyun didn't realize if he should take this shield. Something is missing here. To get out of this situation, something more is needed. There is a skill with which you can put your magical energy into transportation. Let him show it. Soul Driver. With this skill he will be able to pour mana into transportation and drive it at will. There are no restrictions. This skill can be used for both defense and attack. This is after all the same cost as his previous skill. What exorbitant numbers. Is it worth spending all the points on this skill? He just needs it now. Let him buy it. He had acquired the Soul Driver skill. Ji-hyun felt a surge of strength. We need to activate the skill and pour magical energy into this machine. His mana would be low. He decided to drink a magic restoring potion. He greatly increased the magic recovery speed by 3 minutes. They need to use a new skill. Without a certain level of his magic power, it far exceeds anything here. Digging restores magical power is a core specialty. Let them hold on tight. The girl couldn't understand what he was going to do. Dragon Heart magic skill. A ring of dragon magic power. An impenetrable wall. Automatic energy expenditure is activated. At most, the Soul Driver skill increased to second. I have passengers delighted. He got 52 points. Ji-hyun was very focused at this moment. His skills are amazing. He got 1000 points and another 1000 points. Ji-hyun was surprised that he had gotten 1000 points. He came to the line of his base capabilities, so the reward is 1000 points. But that's not what this is about now. We need to worry. Let him concentrate. But he realized he was right, and now he'd better concentrate. He'd see later. The girl was quite surprised by the situation. She said he's headed that way. She sees the boss. He wondered what exactly the boss was. It was indeed a very huge monster. The monster boss is a nightmare mushroom. Keep an eye on him. He got 1 point. It's a great reward. He got a point from the boss. Let him keep in mind that he can only find out all the information he needs by submitting a request. Then why is his color suddenly so dark? I think that's it. Looks like he's about to turn into a poisonous mushroom. Now this monster would become poisonous. They wouldn't be able to approach it at all. What will he do now? Are they really going to die like this? Damn, what the hell? Ji-hyun said for everyone to hold tight. Buckle their belts. All the hunters use their strength to increase the speed of the truck. What does he want? He's gonna hit him with a truck. He's out of his mind. Just let them trust him. That truck is their best weapon. Time is short. The brother believed the guy after all. The girl and the guy decided to believe him too. If they have enough magic power, they will have a chance to win. The principal told the kid to trust his brother. The guy decided to do just that. Advancing to the boss. With the support of mass acceleration, the truck reached the boss. The guy decided to turn to the great apostle BK. He was born to save mankind. He milked their hunger and with his flesh gave them food. Sungguan blessed Zhong Ji Baek with his protection. All in all, he focused all of his power on the attacking hunters. They don't have to win. Shouted for them to hold on tight. To begin, they're about to crash into that monster. They were in anticipation of something, but didn't even know what to expect. Hunter Yunhan used acceleration. The country hearing nothing is not a mistake. It was just that he had crossed the line of his capabilities. Their defenses had overridden all outside influences of the monster. What's next? At this moment, Ji-hyun noticed the mouth of this monster in front of him. The monster started to move very slowly. Ji-hyun decided to look at his watch. He didn't know if it was going to be okay, and he wasn't sure it would be. He stopped. What is it? Then they flew at full speed and right through him. They literally put a hole in it. Then successfully almost landed on the ground. Ji-hyun asked if everyone had. The helpers are alive. No serious injuries. Sungwon helped them regain their strength. Ji-hyun said that's great. We need to look at everything. Ji-hyun once again asked if everything was alright. No major problems. Just running out of time. Ji-hyun says they need to run. Jong Ji-baek needs help. The man in charge approached him and asked how he was. Let him be patient there. He will help him now. Use Sylphid's purposes. The girl said she was in pain. Let him bear a little. The wound will heal now, and there will be no blood. He is not enough. Also to finish. What about the boss? Have him tell them he's dead. They put a hole through it. Let it wait. Why did the scoreboard say, "Stupid Dungeon Oki"? Ji-hyun asked her. Nothing popped up. The evolution of the monster, the nightmare fungus, was not fully completed. All people would when they heard that. Boss, the nightmare mushroom is Lucy, the great nightmare demon. Ji-hyun now realized that the dungeon had cleared, and there was another demon in there. Another demon has indeed appeared. They didn't expect it and didn't know what to do. It's not the same demon it used to be. The devil has changed it, made it even stronger. What is it? What's he doing? Everybody's cool if they don't beat him. But his remaining strength, he must not interfere or he'll die. He's aware of it too, but everyone will die if they don't destroy the bastard. Someone has to do it. At this point his brother caught him and asked, "Is he okay? Let him not work too hard. He will be ill with such a load." Ji-hyun realized that his body wasn't listening to him. Please let him listen to his little brother. They still had one man left on their team in good health. The boy wondered who it could be. He's trying to sacrifice his life again. If he dies that way, what will happen to the others? Again, what is he talking about? The character always says the same thing, that there are no happy endings. He will take care of the rest. Let them all find a safe place and hide. They were surprised that he would fight alone. At this moment, the girl and Ji-hyun were lying on the ground. At that moment, they all noticed something. They noticed a very huge shockwave. A one-on-one battle with a demon. Who is the director? What's the matter? Has it always been this slow, or does it feel like it's slowing down for some reason? Ji-hyun asked his brother what time it was. He said 4:23. Ji-hyun looked at his watch at this moment. The time was not different. An artifact that is more than just a clock. What was the cause of the clock error in which the system was guaranteed to be perfect? He's coming back. The CEO is coming back. Did they really fight the demon? Did we defeat it? At this moment, the principal actually came out to them. They were all in anticipation of something incomprehensible. His abilities are definitely time-related. The dungeon was cleaned up. These were not the first dungeons. There are additional rewards for their contributions. At this moment, were they really outside the dungeon? Ji-sek's group made it out of the dungeon safely. Young Ji-hyun's staff waited and quietly regulated the issue without informing the media. Hunters and deputies board special buses to go to the hospital, to the tree that they survived. Only then could they fall into a deep sleep, day after day. Here's that moment in the hospital. Is it already like this? A pendant for the reward of the great, sinister fairy pendant. When quoted, all stats plus, mana regeneration rate plus 10%, mana storage capacity plus 10% applies. 6 pendants refers to all members of the group. Yeah, it's an award for the top 6 contestants, so everyone must have gotten it. Well, what's the point? If it's a lucky number, was there anything like that? They speak of failure as fortune, and as hidden figures in the system. What does it mean to have a hidden figure? Yes, hidden figures not only have luck but also talents. Personalities cannot be increased by effort count, so the system doesn't mark it. No, unequivocally, but quite interesting. Thus, Chichik unlocks 2 random unique skills and gains skills that are only given to Dejonas related to magic development. He thought that he wouldn't need Baba Vova's Dragon Heart because of the overlapping skill, but what he heard was this: it would evolve when a duplicate skill was acquired. He decided to develop 2 cores that collected mana faster, a dual-core unique grade. In addition, a random box of unique items of the Troll Regeneration Ring item. Class B, Ring Artifact Type. This is the famous end of the rewards. Ask your brother what he got. She's got a pretty good one. Oh, really? This is a Class B necklace, but can create 5 defense shields per day. This is a great item for those who use firearms as their primary weapon, and there is a skill called Double Shot. This allows it to fire at once. If he uses dual pistols, he can fire bullets at the same time. That would be really cool. They have gained incredible skills and items. His body is already itching. He wants a quick recovery so he can try them out. He says he absorbs the letters. It is originally an independent living being that can exist on its own, but it is attached to its body because this living being must feed it by reading books. That's right, it's the identity of a parasitic chaos character. but has been stabilized as a skill through the system, so there shouldn't be any problems with his health. On the other hand, maintenance must guarantee the safety of the system. There can be no certainty. If he had thought it over, he still decided on his guardian deity, didn't he? Many gods contacted him after that, but in most cases, according to the contract, the names are at a disadvantage. He has to be picky since he's from law school. It's usually good for a hunter to choose a guardian deity, but it's different in his brother's case. Supplementing his likely skill bases, his Class A skill has no weapon restrictions. That way, he can even choose a god that matches the class. After his growth, does this really mean that choosing a god is better later when there are excellent analogs? Dokami would be better off making a lucrative contract with him after he's strengthened a bit because the chaos text is so valuable. He bought himself the materials for the magic golems he talked about. He doesn't even know how he's going to make money, but he spent quite a bit of money. When they arrive, no one buys these ingredients anyway, so they said they could bring them as early as tomorrow. Then they should hurry up and process his discharge. It's garnered another 100,000 likes. At this point, I've divorced the non-emerging bogeyman. Have him look in the basement. All the components they ordered had arrived. The protagonist was surprised that it was so fast. The underground alchemy room. Alright, when should he start the skill of knowing the magic golem? The skill of creating a magic golem is activated. What level does he want to choose? There are quite a few types, aren't there? The doctor said to let the master wait a while. Please let him use alchemy. Crafting skills have terminating effects. If he utilizes it properly, he can increase his efficiency. Is it true? So, he's telling him to activate them immediately, isn't he? The arrogance of the overlap. He wanted to activate it. Let him activate it. Both the magic golem creation skill and alchemy are activated at the same time. The activation is complete. The hidden recipe has been obtained. Cycling through a heavy magic golem. A class hidden recipe of even a small amount of mana can generate power comparable to that of a magic golem. A motorcycle is cool, isn't it? He'd gathered all the necessary components. Wanted to use it. Of course, Ji-hyun started building this motorcycle. At this point, Ji-hyun started moving on his own, assembling the motorcycle. Because you create magical will, we begin and end with mana. He could see the consequences of setting up a secret magic recovery circle in advance. At this moment, the mountain was centered. The summoning of a motorcycle is complete. Each successful crafting without losing mana more than once provides an additional one. The owner's magic is burned instead of fuel. It can ride on any terrain for its performance. While riding it, the user learns to drive more effectively. Ji-hyun was glad he had such an arsenal. It was an amazing skill. Summoning. It can put a motorcycle into space or summon it from outside. Mana reduction can also be achieved by using 50% mana of a normal magic golem. Acceleration. The higher the speed, the more damage from the skill. This product is indeed fraudulent. Additional skill. Mana influence is assimilated by the rider's skills. This is what he was looking for all along. Combined with the mobility of the motorcycle, his power would be even greater than it is now. There's probably no one else as strong as him at the same level. Nothing to fear with this one. He'll take it on a thrilling ride. The spirit said they should do it. Shortly afterward, Ji-hyun shared a video titled, "The Essence of Outdoor Riding." He's going to do a release. He's short on skill points or what? Ji-hyun has become Bae Dalchok. He goes as far as he can. Now he's rolling on a motorcycle. An outdoor trip. It's not even about dungeon strategies. Is that a fun thing to do? Just have them show the ring hitting the monster in the truck. He's going that way. He didn't write who he is. Perhaps it's because the claim has its limits, but there's a lot of commentary predicting the end. Ji-hyun was willing to sue them, but the platform was a foreign company, so it wasn't easy. But on the contrary, this incident provoked the foundation. It became an opportunity for them to unite, and this was quickly taken care of. Hunter so young as a chicken, makes the world tremble, shows him a thumbs up. Please let him check the video. Where did Ji-hyun go? Only sees a shining light. Ji-hyun is scheduled to perform live right now. Shin Sung Group's eldest daughter, Shin Jorin, a hunter who naturally awakened to the highest level without the aid of an awakening stone. She's the next heir to this company and became a subscriber to the guy's channel, organizing a meeting with famous celebrities. When Ji-hyun held a recruitment auction in the past, she was the one who followed the counteroffer. She suggested that I pay attention to him on top of everything on Jong Ji-hyun's side. Young's group of all places. Why should he care about someone who has fallen foul of it? The main chest was indeed joyful at this moment. These photos are pumped up because I just wanted to refresh my eyes. And it's certainly not because of any romantic feelings. No big deal. Why should she care what all the fuss is about watching his video? That should be enough. It's different from romantic feelings. Feelings aren't much different than that. That's why she couldn't take her eyes off him. A slight feeling of elation, trepidation, anxiety, and even anger, like being in a car accident. A certain emotion hit her heart hard. Subscribers are the devil's essence. It looks like a reward from the dungeon. Congestion, days. What is it to him? A guardian. This is the item he got when he unlocked the boss. Great demons. Nightmares from the mushroom dungeon. Ji-hyun handed him all the items he acquired at a low price, including this essence. The reactions in the comments are great. He's going to cook something before the hunt. Not too much, let them be surprised at what happens from here on out. It's somehow a tonic for Chi Liang. If he gives Danya, his wife, to divine beings during a religious service ceremony, no suitable price will be paid for it. Earlier, the system had taken away the essence of the dialogue, and when it was the first time Chi Liang went down, at this moment, he has already eaten it. Even though it looks precious, why would he give it away? She will die after taking it. The divine spirit swallowed it in a few seconds. The call evolved. Stage 2 Evolution. Class Legendary. Growth Type E. Divine Spirits Classification. In addition to detecting skill offerings, it can actively intervene in battle to aid its master. It absorbs the owner's mana and bolsters its lower and middle-class monsters' abilities. It should be suitable, but can easily notice the monster's movement, increasing the level of summoning. Motorcycles increase Ji-hyun's spirit level. Pillars of self-confidence. To test his new power, he stumbled into a vacant lot and moved there. He arrived at the top of one of the mountains in Gangwon-do, where private ladies and military bases had been wiped out and turned into monster territory. Immediately he started his personalized stream. Is it on or not? He's nervous because this is his first experience playing solo. To connect the direct channel, used the skill all-directional shooting, so came without. Live 40 wrote that he is here. She will give him 10 million just for trying, plus another 10 million if he completes the hunt. The thrill. They write that he's throwing in another 4 million and will give him another 2 million if he finishes at least half of it. Along with the spectator grenades, the solo game began. Naked Games ruled the fight, and of course the spirit helped him. The spirit was really helping him a lot at this point. They noticed that he was really strong. It's not like he invented. He chews his face up to that level. Well, Ji-hyun was no slouch either and decided to fight. At that moment, he had already landed on the ground, and then headed straight into the depths of all those monsters. From responding to the will of users using Drive Extra Noah communication, the monsters didn't expect such a strong opponent. This crazy, they couldn't tell if they were asleep. What the hell is that? That's really cool. That's what it's like to watch live TV. They believed that the main character was the strongest. Jinga Group headquarters, a magic golem appeared that no one had ever seen before. More specifically, what in the world is it like? Someone went to such a dangerous place and came back from it alive. How fascinating. And he survived after that. He's only about level 20. That was Yoongsugi, a capable user who is able to control the water more often. He is the son of the eldest son of Jang Han-taek, the owner of Django Group, Jang Mandok, who inherited a huge authority. What an extraordinary 20 levels now. They read here that considering the way he manipulated the public's opinion, they didn't expect him to make so much money. Such a talent would be Ji-hyun throwing pearls before swine. He doesn't know why he's such a bright guy. How will he be on his side? A contract with conditions would be just fine. It makes him sad to think about it too. While he doesn't like the squabbling between members of the recruit talent family, think about what caused him to not get his first new one in his hands. Isn't it okay to count talent that has already joined? So what he's saying is, let him see if it's possible to get him on your side. Money, power, support, or he wants something special. So does he really intend to hit on him? Should that mean his talents are exceptional? The guy said he has a good vibe. He's a rising star and he likes that he's hiding something. Ji-hyun took a little offense to him. Well, maybe you wanted him to. He was the one who had, well, righted their father's hand with a knife. And he'll make him pay off some of his debt while he's here. Well, it's you incident. Of course it played a part too, but he had no choice. Earlier his brother kept hitting him on the back. Let him just know that he could walk away. They just deflected and started walking away. The guy kept practicing. Without precedent skills and abilities, it would be fun to fight him. Free. Right now he's a chick with wet ears. At this moment, Ji-hyun continued his battle. He handled his motorcycle with ease. What a surprise. Think about it. A level 20 can catch a level 80 without even playing in a group. Just solo. Ji-hyun did win unpredictably chic. He wanted to stop him when he said he was heading to the wasteland drawing his first solo game, but held back, because it could have been very dangerous as he was setting off without his knowledge, instead of not being able to reach him. So instead he thought it would be best to hold him where he could watch him, for he would at least be able to predict the pattern of his death. Thinking that he was accustomed to certain death, he wondered if it was right to confidently help him and just stay on guard. At that moment, someone called him. As it turned out, it was his sister. He asked what was wrong. Is she asking early or is he not going to be on the shareholder list? She has no such plans right now, but she will definitely do it later. She sees and thanks. If he plans such things, he should tell her first. Had he realized it, what kind of otaku like her, who doesn't care about anything but mechanical and empirical research, is proven to be something like that? I don't even know why she's so interested in investing. Investments make more money on patents than on stocks, and that I'm sure. Then why exactly did she ask him about such a thing? They should film mukbang. Keeps the promise he made to Ji-hyun. Let him give him his technology. Management is correct in understanding what it wants. Just why on earth would she have such an interest in this guy? It wasn't just because she wanted to see them eating on camera. He'd think first. He plays a very tough game. Why didn't everything go smoothly? Why can't she meet Jang Ji-hyun on her own? It would destabilize the company. They've already discussed it. They can't do that by recklessly contacting him. It could provoke outside power brokers. When did she have time to become a fan of this type of guy? Well, that's just the way it is. Let her listen. She means a rookie like him, racing around on a motorcycle and killing everyone around him. But he destroyed all the gnolls in the area and took her with him. What does she propose to do? At that moment, the girl smiled and looked at her. Shin Yuran and Zhang Baiga, when they studied in the US, both were popular at university and emerged as party queens. They were very wealthy. Both liked extravagant things. Both began to experience something resembling friendship before their graduation began. Shin Yuran thought that the other girl's technology drone could help their company grow faster. It started when she mindlessly barged in. She walked into the room where everyone was after the party. The girl asked what it was all about. She thinks she's destroying her brilliant brain with drugs and alcohol. Why is she talking about it so suddenly? If she keeps doing this, let her give her brain. She talks about wanting to throw her brain in the trash. She will use it as a treasure, so just have her give it to her. The girl was furious with her at this point. Zhang Biji's wild lifestyle turned Shin Yuran's jealousy into anger. This moment was the beginning of their friendship. Ji-hyun isn't even her type. Is her ideal type someone like a housemate and support in one person? That's right. Ji-hyun is not like that at all. She will make him her lover. She will not be able to live her life. All her life she's just a fan. Okay, she told him to give her shares. An answer would be forthcoming. If she got them, she'd be obliged to join too. She will be able to get a good share of the profits. The hunter makes a lot of money. How to make money by being a casual fan? Under pressure, Jiang Ji-hyun will give it away. That way she can support him with his capital. She will actually accomplish what she thinks she will. Here are over 90,000 likes from the live stream, 20,000 of them from the gods. He will be able to get even more likes after updating and editing the clip. He decided to send this. He asked the spirit what he thought. Was he missing the battle this time? He said he definitely didn't. It's a real rarity for me to be less than 6 months old. Nijirai hunter Ravol's entire village of level 80 or so monsters. But he should be concerned about safety in the future. He'll attract more and more enemies. Just as he'll increase the attention on himself. We'll find out about it. But he can't get more likes if he doesn't draw attention to himself. He'll have to resign himself to living with even more enemies. So he has no choice but to get stronger. He doesn't want to lose any potential enemies. If it's some other spectrum, should he train more or what? He thinks it's a good idea to try to draw out the chi energy from his sword. Ji-hyun didn't understand why on earth. Because the chi of the sword can only be freely used for ranged attacks. Added to that, most defensive opponents can be ignored with it. It's not just a single blade, it can be more than just one blade. This is the biggest drawback, the same as the time element. Unless it's an enemy you can get rid of with a punch, it will be unprotected before your opponent attacks for 10 seconds. But the cooldown time, into the grain, if the equalizer is stronger than this, it will be uninteresting anyway. It will help it to some extent to provide the mobility of a monobike, but it's better to have more effective means of attack. However, for this reason, the chi of the sword is the best option. Yes, if he uses this far circle, circular attacks become possible. He can still raise his sword chi to the size of a copy. Okay, practicing is the only answer. He could break his bones with it. He should also be willing to practice. Ji-hyun said he understood and would do it. Is he really okay? Isn't he his counselor? Let him tell him what will be most helpful. When so-and-so began a hell of a lot of training in new abilities. The protagonist offered an entire floor for a training room after review by the principal. Before getting into the actual training, he bought some science with the likes he got. He got 15,000 likes for the full-size version. Okay, let him keep an eye on that. Let him not rely on skill. First, you have to learn fencing from the beginning. Heavenly and Earthly Ball Art, 72,000 likes. Heavenly and Earthly Steps, 1,100 likes. Heavenly Earthly Power Strokes. Ji-hyun started practicing. He tried his best. 1,000 heavenly cloud steps are like the movement of clouds in the sky. The footsteps of the earth's hearth are like steps with the weight of a mountain. They need time to build up order and blessing. Because as little enlightenment is as important as great enlightenment. If he doesn't organize them inside his head and repeat them over and over again, he may forget how he used to feel. Great enlightenment can be achieved by compiling these things. Training is a long run to get the blessing. Shouldn't have missed the live broadcasts even when he was at his daily workout. Isn't mukbang one of the most popular in their day? But that wasn't the case. Airings about animals are pretty popular, too. Ever since they combined this type of roller with cute things, his energy has doubled. Everyone wrote that his countries were very funny. He's doing a good job. No one knew how he could be so talented in such a type. He realistically reached 10 million. He was sad. He would change his career from now on. It had been 1 month since he started doing training and live shows in parallel. He began to notice results without numerical steps or sword wielding. At that moment, the spirit pointed him to the light on the tip of his sword. The man in charge noticed it at this point as well. The sword chi manifested from the outside without the help of any additional skills.